Hello all. This is a small council, which we do at 9 p.m. Eastern, or wherever the fuck we get started, on Saturdays. Yeah, and we have a great group of guests here. I'm really excited to get talking to them. We If you are watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's very important, right? We want to see you back here. We want to see you supporting, and you can do that by hitting that join button, becoming a member, right? Supporting the channel that way. It'd be much appreciated how we keep this thing going, right? So if you appreciate the content, then support that channel, hit that join button, please become a member. Also, consider coming to a live Twitch show, right, where we do this. And be a part of Twitch chat, which is a lot of fun too. We'd love to see you. All right. So we'll start by introducing everyone. Boy, Doobie, we've been really rough on you. Doobie, thanks for our Dark Lord and Savior. Doobie, thanks for being here.
I do have a penis. Okay, so all of you guys are aware. It's very nice. It's pristine, beautiful. Lots of people like it. Never had any complaints. Just saying.
So, what's worse is that this is going to be a new video, and if someone watches that in isolation,
they're gonna be like, "What is he talking about?"
It's like, all right. All right. Well, we'll just have to take your word for that one. So, Katie.
Yeah.
Are you regretting me inviting you to this one?
It's like I have so many things to say, but there's just a bunch of like moids here, so it feels pointless too. So it's just like, we'll see. Ask me later.
What's a moid?
It's okay, sweetie. You get through it.
All right. Text me. Like, okay. So, but Katie, thank you for being here.
Yes, I will, darling.
I was gonna say something nice about you. I was gonna say something super nice.
Do please say nice things about me, honey.
All right. Lucas. Lucas, thanks for coming through. It's really nice to have you. We have you very rarely, but we're always happy to.
Thanks for letting me on. Yeah, for the people that don't know me, my name is Lucas. I go online by Robin the State. I normally stream on Twitch, video games, talk about politics sometimes, or drawing. And I am the end cap of the panel today, I guess.
I don't think that'll. Actually, it will probably play in.
It will be a thing. I'll make it a thing.
It's going to be a thing. Of course it is. All right. Well, thank you so much.
That is our goal here. Okay, we're gonna make it a thing.
Are you better or worse than Scott?
Depends on the standard. Better looking, yes. I'll give you
that.
So Scott is the expert compared to you?
Depends on the topic. He knows about some topics more than me, and I know about some topics more than him. It depends.
So combined, you have like a -5 on knowledge?
About -3, maybe. Yeah, probably.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. Next we have, is it Briss or Bryce? I want to make sure I have it right.
It can be whatever. Bryce, Briss, Bry.
I like the one that reminds us of a penis being cut to pieces. Okay, Briss. Thank you. Thank you for coming through. You've been on our open panel a few times, but this is your first time on a closed panel. I was very excited when you said yes. So yeah, tell the world about yourself. They're probably brand new.
Okay. So I'm old guy, retired young. Going back to university, I run a research group at my university, but I decided where this term is online, I'm going to try to dabble in streaming a bit. So I started streaming on Twitch. You can follow me by my same name on the screen. I do just a bunch of random educational content, talking about philosophy, politics, psychology, economics.
Thank you. And last but absolutely not least, we're gonna go back to Katie. Katie, I forgot I'd say that nice thing about you. I was gonna say that your hair looks really great. Like, when this is the first time seeing it. After you did the thing. So your hair
What?
looks very nice. No, he can wait.
What about Wiggle?
He can wait.
Okay.
Katie, you have nice hair.
Thank you.
Here's-
Thank you.
Okay, there you go. All right.
It was
Yeah.
not worth it.
No, all right.
Okay.
All right.
It's fine.
Wiggle. Wiggle.
Wiggle. Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait, that's so old.
Wiggle,
I
please.
know, right? I appreciate that was your comment, by the way. I like you. I take my comment back. You're a good one.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Wiggle. Thanks for coming through. A fantastic mod in our community. Actually, he's really hardworking. And he's here with us again today. How are you?
I'm doing all right. As you can see, Prime's obviously a liar because I'm unemployed. So like, how could I be hardworking? Other than that, it's been pretty nice. I've just been listening to like a horny frog, a femcell, an ANCAP. That the only thing you robbed me of is the last 45 minutes of my day. And what is this, like a boomer Canadian? Like who's it's just struggling to fit in with people 10, 15 years younger than them. So far, it's been pretty exciting.
Hey, I think I
Wonder
fit
where
in
the
pretty
panel
good.
will take us. I would agree. I would agree. Honestly, you've been the least cringe so far.
For a boomer, that's a high
Wait, Brad,
bar.
how old are you?
I'm 37.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so
Okay.
old. Katie, I didn't think I could find someone older than you, but I managed it. Okay. Oh, wow. But Bryce, all right, we'll look for you for knowledge and wisdom. Okay. All right. So. All right, let's keep it pushing. Let's finally get the topic started. Holy shit. Okay. All right. So, the topic tonight is the crisis text line. The crisis text line is a huge nonprofit mental health crisis hotline. Individuals call the hotline to help deal with major emotional trauma they've suffered, which includes contemplating suicide. They helped millions of people over the years. Part of their success has been through the collection and utilization of mental health data they've amassed. However, the hotline also shares that mental health data with its for-profit spinoff, Loris.ai, for the purpose of creating and marketing customer service software. Do you think it is ethical to share information from this particular sensitive group of individuals? Does it make a difference if the information is anonymized? What if the revenue generated by the data helps keep the hotline operational so that they can continue their valuable work? Should there be limits on which parts of our lives that big data can collect, store, and monetize? Okay, yeah. So I want to be very clear about this, right? So we're talking about the crisis text line. We're not talking about the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, okay? Those are two different things, okay? This is a separate group. So that other one, as far as I know, doesn't collect your data. Get out there, all right? But this one it's collecting data and it's chopping it up, it's selling it, or they're sharing it with its spinoff, right? And is that okay? Should this just be another area of lies that corporations have access to and can make a buck off? Right. So we're going to do opening statements of each of them. I'm going to go down the line. I will start with Doobie.
Yeah, this seems totally fine. I struggled. I mean, short of just being like, I guess being hypersensitive about, people, about the conversations themselves being shared or something, worrying that might happen, which I don't think is the case here. I can't imagine any problems you guys would have with this. It seems fun. If this is going to help them make money to keep the text line operational, go for it. Even if it's tonight, even if they use the money for something else, what's the damage being done? It seems totally okay to me. I don't know.
Thank you so much. Next, Katie.
Yeah, I was worried that this would happen. I'm almost with Doobie on this. So, yeah, I don't think it's ethical. And as far as I understand it, it doesn't cover their costs, the money that they're making off like sharing that info. And I read the full article, so there are some things that are questionable in terms of ethics, but it's capitalism. It's really not that like the harm that is being generated by this lack of ethics is not significant. I'm actually happy this came out because then more people would hear about this and they could reach out. So I think that's good. So I don't think it's ethical, but I don't think it's a big issue considering everything that goes into it.
Man, I might have to fight the whole panel. It's fine with me. I'll do it. Let's go
By
to
me.
let's go to Lucas.
Yeah, I mean, ethically speaking, I generally wouldn't have a problem with it, depending on how they're going about it. I mean, depending on what kind of advertising they're doing, if there's like a level of fraud that's going on, like if they're hiding that they were sharing the data, that kind of stuff, that would be something that I'm concerned of. Like, but if they're open about it, they're not hiding. They want to share that. People are okay with it. I'm okay with it. I think they're doing a far better service at helping suicidal people keep their lives and not self delete. I think if they're doing it they're not using people's like personal data, that makes it a lot better. Especially like if all they're doing is just collecting general information and just selling that general information without sharing people's names and on all those stuff. I think that makes it a lot better. But generally, I don't really have a problem with it, unless they're going, depending on how they're going about the contracts and their advertising. I could see how it could be fraudulent, but I didn't see anything of that sort in this case. I do know that some corporations do hide that kind of stuff, and those are the ones that I'm concerned about, the ones that hide it. But if they're not really hiding it or they're not being fraudulent or anything, I don't have any problem with it.
Briss.
Okay, so a couple things. My take is that we have to have a clear case of getting informed consent, and I'm not terribly certain that in these cases we are actually getting informed consent. I think informed consent is one of the emerging problems in ethics, and I think it's a clear case that people don't read when you send them a big paragraph. They don't read TOS, they don't read user agreements, so you don't actually get the actual consent. I mean, legally it's probably walking that line where it's probably not illegal, but I do think that the lack of informed consent presents an issue. I think there's an issue with the information, because in that article they talk about how anonymizing the information doesn't preclude it from an attacker being able to trace the person back, like working backwards from the data. So it seems like there's some potential issues there. And I think that when you look at other countries, we have a lot of either provincial, federal, nationalized help systems, and I think that it might be the time America nationalizes something and nationalize this service and make it transparent. Make it reasonable for them.
Sounds like America.
Thank you so much. And then Wiggle, please.
Yeah, I think Bryce is 100% correct. I think this is 100% unethical. The idea that you're getting these people's consent is kind of ridiculous. Even though our legal system will make sure that that's the case, it's still pretty ridiculous. Imagine you were a person that had a loved one that was in this position, and they signed some form of agreement. Would you be saying that that was them giving consent at that time? If you found out it was a bad agreement, you'd be arguing tooth and nail, and then somebody would come up to you in a business suit and tell you, no, they gave their informed consent, see, because this, that, and the third, but you knew that would be wrong. Deep down, you would know, and you'd feel that level of anger and hatred. And those feelings, I think, are very interesting, and I would agree with them. Beyond that, it's interesting how people are so okay with making individuals who call into a suicide hotline a commodity. So much so that they're just okay with I mean, if that's the cost of making it run, yeah, sure. Make these individuals a commodity. It's crazy. It's almost like those are some of the conditions that lead to people calling these hotlines in the first place. Being seen as just objects that you can market, seen as just use my data. Yeah, I'm calling you at a moment of crisis so that you'll help me on the phone and you'll help me through whatever I'm dealing with. In the article, they talk about kids or people calling in because their parents are screaming in another room or what have you. And then what are you doing? You're taking that and you're selling. You're either selling my data. In this example, they don't sell it; they just use it, and they say come on, we don't sell your data. We're not doing that. We're just using it for profit. You know, it's pretty disgusting actually.
All right. Open to the panel.
I mean, I kind of agree with both people at the same time because like I was saying, like I do have a concern about what is the ethical line that they're walking and whether there's any kind of fraud going on or that like they mentioned the consent that is very important because that would go into whether it's fraud or not what they're doing. I do think that a lot of people were. I feel like Bryce and Wiggle were both are only looking at the negative externalities of this, like what happens if it goes wrong, and that is a possibility. But there's also the possibility that they're using this data to I don't know do more psychological research and find out why are people committing suicide in the area and this kind of stuff. Why are you saying no?
Because the article says that they explicitly don't use it. They share the data with
It's basically a sub company. Like if we know how corporations work, it's basically a second corporation owned by the same group.
Yes, but what they do in that second corporation is just try to make like better, more empathetic customer service AI or like software. So it's not very.
Well,
that-
I need to interject because I have some information to just interject
Go on.
between the exchange between the two of you. So there was a pilot program that CTL did with institutions and researchers where they specifically demoed sharing data, and they tried to do like a pilot program where they tested like what kind of ethical boundaries and like guidelines do we need to have when we're sharing this kind of data. So I'll plug it into the group chat because I think it's a really interesting thing relevant to the conversation.
Can you tell me how though, if I don't have the time to read it?
Yeah,
right now?
absolutely. I mean, I didn't read the entirety of the thing. The main thing that I saw is that they saw a promising results from working together and achieving some kind of like ethical process of sharing the data. And they basically kind of came up. They said that obviously they said the standard like researcher stuff. We need to research this more. We need to talk about this more. But these results are promising.
Okay.
But also they have I can screenshot this. This is probably the main like takeaway. One sec.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, when you say that it has promising results, like what do they mean?
Yeah, I'll screenshot the most like relevant things. In terms of seeming to protect like the like integrity and be ethical is their main.
Wait, but maybe I
result
missed it. The issue here is that it's a non-profit that says that their motivation is like mental health like assistance, and then like a profitable company that is using that data to like basically just get rich. So
Right, but so the problem, I don't actually have a problem with the data sharing because the data sharing is to a customer service program. They're using the language, right, like the language learning to export that to the customer service thing. It's not that they're specifically using the content of the private messages. And if you look at on CTL's website with like, regard to the philosophy, like it seems like they've kind of thought this through, and they're not planning to use like if I texted with this line saying like I'm in a state of arousal, like I'm not thinking clearly, and on so many words, but like if this was me as I was texting with some kind of issue, it's not that they don't use that particular data. Either
Sounds like you said you were horny. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, I'm horny all the time.
I'm in a state of arousal and I'm not thinking clearly.
Yeah, so I mean that's something that psychology considers it, right? When you're in a state of arousal, it's like when you have like a higher level of energy.
That sounds like being a man. But go ahead.
That's a bit confusing to me because the article specifically talked that their system of like anonymizing the data is automated. So supposedly there's no one going over these records later on deciding what to share and what not to share. So maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, there is no, you are right. There's
like a board or something, right?
Like they anonymize the data to an extent, right? But
so everything could be transferred.
Could be, yes. And one of the main issues that I saw on that is that there are a couple of studies that looked at when you have sliced or like truncated data that still has enough information, you can work backwards from that data to still identify somebody. Like a hacker could compromise the database and get that and use the model in one of the studies to like find out.
No, that's not my issue. My issue is you're saying that like I have multiple
data integrity
issues.
should be.
Yeah,
right there.
not okay.
I'm kidding,
My
I'm
issue
kidding.
is that nobody is like deciding which part of which conversation is going to go to the like daughter company. Like there isn't an individual going over these things deciding what's appropriate and what isn't and what shouldn't be shared. It's automated.
It's all automated, right? Like it's all going.
They have like I think they have like a specific board, but like none of those. They said in the article none of those people actually do the hotline stuff, and they're not going to be like you can't determine if they're actually looking into this this automated process that you're talking about that does that. They use that special term for like removing all of the removing all this stuff that's identifiable. What is they call it? Anonymizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They
like
remove
I don't
names,
actually
phone
know if that.
numbers, and social handles, but that doesn't talk about like a like sensitive moment being shared with the daughter company, which would be my issue, I guess. Like
Yeah.
that research that you're talking about, Bryce, doesn't have anything to do with that.
It seems though from like the lures the for-profit company that they're using this data with it seems like it's just um designed in such a way to try and reach people as fast as possible. So they use like the fact that when you call one of these hotlines, one of the metrics that they need is like that someone will get to you really quickly because they think that like if they don't get to you fast enough, harm could be caused. And it seems like that customer service, like that translates to customer service in the way of how do we have a limited amount of workers and reach as many people as possible with like this AI and get them as quickly as possible before they get like upset or like harm is caused in that way. I still think it's unethical the way that they do this, but I guess it would be like it isn't like I don't think they are like sharing this information to that extent.
So-
When you say that it's
Sorry, go ahead.
unethical, like what is it that you mean? What is it that makes it unethical in your eyes? Because I might agree.
Oh.
I don't know.
Is that like all right, so if you're calling into one of these like these hotlines, you're in a position of like what I would consider like duress or a different head state or like you're not in a sound state of mind or what have you, and potentially and then what's happening is that you're agreeing to like the conditions. They say that oh they're giving you some conditions when you call in one of these lines, but obviously they care about something like speed. They care about getting to you really fast. So you're in a position where you're already like in a position where you need help fast. So you're willing to just sign off to anything, say anything, just to get to the point where you get on the phone with another human being. And
I
then
mean-
at that point in time, they call that consent. And then they say, "Oh, you consented to this."
It's probably something like the standard of for training and whatever purposes this conversation is going to be recorded and stuff. There's probably something.
That's what you'd hope, but like there's like a few things about that. So one is that in the article they position like a couple employees saying they didn't even know this. I
Mhm.
do think that's kind of like a little bit dubious because like
I mean,
you know
maybe
you're
it
just
feels
getting
like
a couple
like-
employees and they're not really employees. They're all they're like volunteers. And so that makes it so it's like okay, you're getting a couple people who say one thing, but you could have a bunch of people that say the opposite. But the people they got in the article say that like they didn't even know, and one of them knew, and they have this process like a survey process, which happens, I guess, in a lot of companies where like they'll have like an ability for you to not request, but give feedback to a company or like a place that you work for anonymously. And this guy describes how he gave feedback and he followed like his company's like SOP, and then they still managed to fire him for that, and that's disputed. They say, oh, he broke some code
Terms
of
and
conduct,
conditions, yeah.
and he says he's never done that, and that's kind of dubious. And it's so it puts you in this position where you don't know whether to believe what the article's saying or the company. And I usually side with like the people versus like this company because they're the ones that like are trying to derive some profit from this versus the volunteers. I usually side with the volunteers. And in this situation, it seems like the people on the board that are supposed to overlook this, they don't even do these calls themselves. It says in the article they don't even like. So how are you going to be on like some form of like ethic board or what have you? And you're this rich individual and you don't even even do like what like an hour a week. You don't even do like maybe an hour of calls a week or anything. You're so busy that you're not even a volunteer for the company you sit on a board for. That in itself seems like some sort of
I don't think that makes a difference though. Like I don't.
it should
you
to
don't
you.
need to-
It should to
wait,
you.
wait,
You
wait,
as an
let me
individual.
explain. Let me explain.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you need to be the one making burgers in order to be managing McDonald's. Like that makes no sense. they're different jobs. They're managing the company. Those are completely different jobs, and they serve different purposes. So there's no reason.
Exactly. That's the
Wait,
mindset that I'm saying.
Yeah.
Managing a company. Look
Yeah,
at the
they're
way you're
managing a
talking about a
company.
suicide hotline.
It's a company. What do you want me to do? It's
Managing a company.
It is a company.
Like,
yeah.
and what do you think is the best thing for a manager to be able to do? Understand exactly what their employees, if you think of them as employees, what their employees are doing on a daily basis, to know what they're doing on the floor. And to do that, you'd at least have to have like an hour a week or some form of like volunteer service if you're going to manage the people that are doing that. Like, how are you going to manage people if you don't even know what they do? Like, you just read about what they did. You didn't actually do it yourself. And you laugh, but the barrier of entry is so tiny. It's so tiny to be able to be like
people, because they need people, because they're trying to do they're trying to do it good for society, right? They're trying to get volunteers. That's why the barrier of entry is so low, right?
It seems like they're just trying to sit on a board, and it's the volunteers that are trying to help people.
Wait, do you think that people that run a company just sit on a board and laugh?
No, I don't. I think in this case,
you don't think that takes a lot
I think
of?
on this case that they do.
Yeah, what do you know about the internal runnings of the company? Like, do you know anything about the internal runnings?
I know that the people that sit on a specific board that talk about the ethics do not even use the volunteer.
Wait,
service.
we are not volunteers, and we're discussing the ethics. And we can understand that something is ethical or not ethical without being volunteers in the company.
Like, I haven't heard all of the calls, and I can still make an ethical judgment on what is the way that they're running.
But what kind of argument is that? Is that we are not sitting on this board and we're able to make decisions? We don't make decisions about this. We don't make decisions about this hotline. It's not our hotline. We don't sit on the board of that. So obviously, we wouldn't be.
Okay, this is the problem with Stenground epistemology, right? You're making the assumption that you need to be in the position in order to understand. No, like, humans can understand each other without actually being in the same position. Like,
I can move to like some sort of outside the material situation.
I can understand what it's like to suffer something, or I might not be able to get like an exact experience, but I can have an idea, right? And based on that idea, you can make educated guesses on what to do.
That is not my argument.
But that doesn't say it is like, all right, yeah, so like you can understand harm caused to someone, but then think about this, like the reason you want to disconnect yourself is because you don't want to have to experience that harm yourself in order to understand. That makes sense. You wouldn't want to have to cause harm to understand it. But like, what is the harm in picking up the phone and being part of this? Okay, so like, let's say I want to understand what someone's going through being like a victim of some form of crime. Yes, I wouldn't want to have to experience that crime myself in order to help those people out. But we're talking about picking up the phone and using your own suicide hotline to help somebody. And like the barrier of entry is really small. What is the harm caused to you in doing that to understand what your volunteers are doing?
Operators, like, need to get robbed and have a car accident and get killed or something, you know what I mean, in order to be able to understand what people are going through.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that it makes sense in those situations.
Experience something in order to relate to it. That's retarded.
I know, that's what I'm telling you. I'm saying that makes sense. But in this case, all you have to do is pick up the phone and actually be a volunteer for a suicide hotline. And you're relating this to like, well, actually, like, that's ridiculous. Like, why would they have to do that? Why would they even do that? Yes, like, it's using the service that you're advocating for.
No, wait. You said okay. I'm confused. I don't even know what you said.
I know you're confused. You're very confused.
I'm confused because I don't know what you're saying now. Okay, are you saying that the people that are in the board, that they need to be able to experience what the volunteers experience in order to understand what the volunteers are doing?
Yes.
Okay, that is retarded.
For a suicide hotline.
For any job, the idea that you have to experience.
This is what I'm saying. You want to relate it to any job, but it's a suicide hotline.
Because like, jobs are jobs, okay?
No, like, jobs are very different. Being a doctor is different than being like what?
Yes,
like
it's still a job, okay? You don't need to know exactly.
Like, and you have to understand the differences, don't you?
You don't need
I thought you were an ANCAP. Don't you have to understand differences in jobs? Are all jobs the same?
I'm not saying that. Okay,
a completely unfettered environment. Would you be willing to be a garbage man and also be willing to be a surgeon?
Let Lucas finish, please, Lucas.
Okay. The manager of a hospital doesn't need to know how the surgeon is going to do a surgery in order to be able to manage the doctor, right? The same.
But there's a barrier entry to be a surgeon. There's several years, maybe like 40 years.
How does that make a difference? On the idea
it makes a difference because what is the barrier of entry to be someone on a volunteer line for a suicide hotline?
Let me finish my question. How does it make a difference that there is no barrier of entry for the job in order for the manager to understand the job. The manager can still understand the job regardless of the barrier of entry. Like,
Because that's called training. Like, yes, if you want to manage someone in the
the
barrier of
board,
entry
the
to their
people on the
job,
board of
you're doing
directors are not trainers. That's a different job.
yes, but they're trying to understand the ethics of it. So, like, why would they not? Why would they not at least use the service
Okay,
and be
you
a
need to
volunteer 1 hour?
experience
Like
it
1 hour.
in first person to understand the ethics of something, or can you make a third person
You
judgment
don't
on
have to,
ethics?
but what is better? What is better, materially doing it or just thinking about it?
No, people, not everybody's going to be able to do that. That's the problem, right? They're trying to be as efficient with
They're
their
like
time
the
as
same
possible.
people that use that Doobie app to like experience having a relationship with someone. Yeah, like I could just have an app and I can have a girlfriend versus like actually physically having someone and having that connection. What's the difference? What's the difference? It's like this, it's the same thing. Like you don't actually have to be with a physical woman to have a girlfriend. You could just use this app. Like what?
No, but you can understand what a
I'm
job
sure you
has to
can't
do. You
understand,
can
but you can
manage
understand
a
a little
job.
bit better if you
Wait,
did
no,
it.
you can manage a job, right? You're trying to make it related into something else that's not related to jobs. Okay,
That's
we're
what I'm
talking
saying about
about
you.
jobs.
You're
No,
trying to make
wait.
all
No, we're
jobs the
talking about
same.
jobs. Yes, because managing a
All
company is
jobs
the
are the
same.
same. Say that to
No,
the people in
managing
West
companies are the
Virginia. What do
same.
you tell them
Okay,
to switch to
okay,
different energy?
we got to move on.
Right.
We got to move on. And indeed, the Doobie app is coming to a phone near you. All right, so check that out. Check out the Google Play Store. All right, let's go to Katie.
Wiggle. The ethics that the board need to understand, is it whether it's ethical or not to transfer that information to the other profit-oriented company, or is it the ethics involved in providing assistance for suicidal like people? Which one is it?
The way that they word it in the article, what I would say is specifically looking at this data and seeing how this data is anonymized and like transferred in some form, and then looking at the company, like the company itself.
Okay.
I think that if you're gonna sit on this board, and you look at some of the individuals on it, they're like what is it, like some high up individual from Reddit, etc. And they showcase in the article that these members, none of them have been volunteers. For like, and that's my problem, is like you guys, not you guys, honestly, it's like I only confirm it's Lucas, but I can't say anyone else so far, like are okay with like someone sitting on this board and not even just doing an hour of being a volunteer. That somehow
Okay.
like we have to have a 30-minute argument about that.
So the reason why I thought it was predominantly like the most unethical thing about the whole like operation of the company was the fact that the volunteers don't seem to be aware that there's a transfer of that data, which is highly disturbing to me because they are also participants that did not give them consent to that. Whatever. We can discuss that later. I have opinions about you saying that like people who are mentally distressed can't consent, blah blah blah. My point is right now is that if we're talking about the ethics of transferring that data to another profit-oriented company, that has nothing to do with working at the hotline. So I agree with you. They would be best if everybody pitched in an hour, but there's orientation and not everyone are suited for that kind of work anyway. But that doesn't change the fact we can all discuss whether this company doing this transfer of data, which is the issue of this panel, ethical or unethical. If the board is going over conversations that their operators had with people, they can see the conversation and decide if it's ethical or unethical for another profit-oriented company to read that conversation. They don't need to work as an operator to make that decision. I think that's what Lucas was saying. That's what I think.
Basically.
Yeah, no, like what he was referring to is like their capacity to do the job. Was that not?
No, I was saying that there is.
You were talking about that they should still have the capacity to do the job.
No, I was saying that the idea that they need to be operators themselves in order to be able to run the company. That's
in order to have the
stupid.
capacity to do the job. Thank you. Like that's
To
the
run the
same-
company. Yeah, you don't
Yes,
need to
the
experience
capacity
every
to do the
single-
job.
You don't need to experience every single job within a company to
Oh no, we're back to this.
understand.
Okay.
Oh my god, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna get back into it because this is
Let's
obviously like Wiggle not knowing how companies work. Like
Me not knowing
I
how
feel like
companies
this is
work.
kind of a
You
moot
just
point.
you just
Honestly,
didn't
this is
agree
kind
with
of a
me
moot
saying
point.
exactly what you were saying. I'm not saying that's why it's like unethical. I'm saying that's goes into it's strengthening my argument that this company is unethical.
Okay, let's talk about what's unethical about this company now.
So What is the element of what could be unethical about this is that while the act of sharing the sliced data, like the truncated data itself, is not specifically unethical, there's a chance that through the models and through like somebody getting hacked or the wrong people getting their hands on it, that this could be used to trace back to like an identifiable group. Like if they're sharing this huge data set about people, there's ways that people can specifically target particular groups that identify as like trans, maybe somebody that's depressed or suicidal, and that could be used in any number of different ways.
So my problem is not with um like these phantom hackers, right? Like that's like
Yeah.
the go-to thing for these things. But like one, unless there's like a clear profit motive, like hackers don't do that, right? Like hackers just don't these day and age, right? They don't.
You never
there's
heard of
like
Carlos boyfriend? Like they'll go to some
Yeah.
crazy stuff.
Hackers do a lot of shit for profit. We just don't hear about it as much.
yeah, for profit. That's what I'm
even-
saying. Yeah.
And even for not profit, like I've heard stories of like a
Oh,
girl that is
hacktivism,
like,
yeah.
oh my boyfriend was a hacker, and we broke up, and we're having, and he just
Yeah.
decided to hack everything. Like
That's not the same
hackers
thing.
don't work only on a
That's
for-profit.
not the same thing. That's not the same thing, right? Like the resources to hack your ex-girlfriend's iPhone, right, are different than resources
Oh, no.
needed.
You'd be surprised how far I go.
Okay,
Oh
so
my
oh my
God.
God, let me. Oh my god. Oh, the
Go on.
point is,
I'm
is
sorry
that-
for derailing you.
No,
That
it's
was
fine.
That was
Yeah.
intentional.
No, Lucas, you're fine, right? I've experienced Scott much worse. You're an angel compared. So tell him I said
We
that.
love you, Lucas. You're
But
the
no.
good one.
But yeah, so hacking these companies and then like stealing this huge data set and then mining that data, right? Like it's got to be a clear profit motive, and there might be a way that they can monetize that data set. It's a possibility, right? But hold on. What's more I think the thing we should be more afraid of is that, okay, right now we know they're selling that data to their sister company, right? But and for a very specific purpose. But what if it was just to any third party, right? If you could just sell it to one organization, you can sell it to other organizations, right? Like my problem is like the legal uses of this, and we have not, as a society, worked out what those are, right? Like what is actually acceptable. So if we say that in this space, that it's fine because, well, it's not so bad. It's using it to create a more empathetic customer service AI software. Okay, sure, but then what about it's not so bad? We're using it to sell cereal, right? Or it's not so bad. We're just selling it to governments, right? Governments who may or may not have a problem with the people who call into that, right? Like there's once you like have broken this wall, but yeah, we could just
But
monetize
that's the
this.
thing, right? And this is what I'm upset with you about.
Okay.
They haven't broken that wall. They have a very specific point to which they share this data. And now you're talking, basically, the title of the stream only works because we have to pretend like this company is selling this data to a third party to do something malicious with this content, which is not what's happening. Because we can just talk about Facebook and about Google and about a lot of other companies that are already selling information to third parties for ad revenues and shit like that. In the article that you sent all of us, there was an example of what was it? There was another company that were selling some of the info to Google for advertisements. I don't remember which one it was. So but this isn't what this company is doing. So we're demonizing a company that is saving lives because there's this hypothetical thing, evil thing that they're doing when it's not the case.
But once you that's what it always starts with big data. Like the big data, big data was not what it was. It didn't like come out from the ether fully formed, right? It was just these little incursions into our lives, right? I think if you told people the amount of data that we sell and we just like let out into the world, right? If you brought a time travel 30 years into the past, just 30 years into the past, right? And had this conversation, they would be fucking horrified. This must be a dystopia you're talking about. Must be.
I understand what Primes is saying, and that kind of gets into like what I was saying from the beginning, right? Like the idea of like informed consent and what is it that they're consenting to, right?
No,
Like,
Prime
so
isn't talking about
no,
consent.
let me
That's my
explain what I'm saying.
issue.
Wait, no, yes, he kind of is, right? So like, if the
He's
company,
not.
wait, let me explain. So if the people that are calling and stuff, right, and they know that they're calling into a hotline, right, and all they know that is that the hotline is going to share this with only this company, right? And for some reason after that, the company decides to do that. That is obviously a breach of contract that these people are having. This is why I was kind of bringing that up, because depending on the way they're going about it, this can get into an area that I would consider fraudulent, and I think that as a society we should look into that. That is why I brought
Okay,
that up.
I understand. But see, if we're going to talk about consent, that's a very different issue than saying the data as it's currently being collected, as in conversations of people in mentally fragile situations trying to get help, to claim that that could be, I mean, sure, a person could go over it and maybe they'll find enough profit motive in it to sell cereal to some of those people, but that data is anonymous. This data cannot be used in a way that is harmful when it's not about like identifying those individuals and finding them. It can only be used for things that I think are generally good. Do I think it should be used at all? No, I don't think it's a good look. I think it's kind of cringe. Do I think it's a huge issue? No, I don't think it is either.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about consent, that's very different. I have a lot to say about that too. But this isn't about consent. It's about Prime talking about how there's this transfer of data. And I'm a terrible person to argue that with, because I don't give a fuck how much data anyone has. I think this whole need to protect your privacy is going to go away in 50 years from now anyway. We're just like pretending like we care about privacy when in 30 years from now, when Amazon is going to have a hologram sent like socks to our doors, we're not going to have it because privacy. It's bullshit. It's nonsense.
But you do care about privacy. You wouldn't want someone looking through your window right now. You wouldn't want somebody like in your house sitting in your couch. You wanna protect your property. You want to protect your your privacy.
Online data mining. Better?
Much better, much better. But I agree with like what Prime's saying, is that like there seems to be a trend, and that trend is that over time, these things are more intrusive on your life, and they start as like Trojan horses, and eventually, just an app that's utilized to meet people from like college or high school, and like photos and stuff becomes something that takes your data. And then I agree with you to an extent of like why it makes sense to be like a doomer because of that trend, because you may not see a way of escaping that. You may see that as like eventuality. Like eventually everything's going to take your data. Eventually, everything
Hey,
is going
I'm
to...
pro giving up the internet. Not everyone is as on board with me with
fuck
that
that.
concept. Yeah, that's what I thought. So
I've got a really easy solution
I'm
to all
big
this.
on
Oops,
not
sorry, go ahead.
giving my data to online companies. I just think people being
Guys are
whiny about
cringe.
companies having that data is silly because they wouldn't mind it in 50 years.
What?
Stupid.
I mean, hold on. No, or it could be that we have allowed, right, slowly, like these companies have simply acclimated us, right? Like it's not as if, right, like Zoomers born today who have been born under this regime, this big data regime, right, had a choice. This is the ANCAP argument, right? then like agree, right? They were simply born in this nation under this regime, right? They never made that specific consent. But
So?
like, and this is just how the world is for them. But that doesn't mean that we can't, right, as human beings, realize that there is a drift within society, right? We can
There is a drift. Are you
judge it,
supporting
and
doing
we-
anything
and
about
we-
it to stop it?
Yes, actually, I am. Actually, I am. Actually, I was
Do you
going to
think
get to
it's
that.
viable?
Yes, actually, it is, right? Like the
These are the
European
questions
Union-
of
Crazy.
these are the
That's
questions of like liberals, like people who look at the status quo of like there's a problem, I see it, but are you doing anything to stop it? So I
No,
guess we
that's
can
not
all
what I'm
just wait
saying.
until the comet hits and we'll be dinosaurs, like
No, I think that there's a really effective way to approach this and handle this. All you have to do is allow them to change this data over to Loris, let them start their tech startup, let them get all the funding, all that stuff, and go to town with it. And
nationalize
just have.
it.
Obviously, this will never happen because Americans are really dumb, so this will never
Oh, it
actually
will
happen.
never
but,
happen? Guess all of this
so
is
hang on.
pointless
Wait.
then.
Let me finish the
No.
point. Let me finish the point.
I got to finish my
so-
point at some point too. But go ahead.
Of course,
Price.
right after me. Thank you, appreciate that. Just nationalize it, be turned into like what we call in Canada call a crown corporation, and then you suddenly have the problem of all the like privacy and everything dealt with in a much better way, because
tell
it's
a
a hybrid
bunch of
corporation. You have
Americans
You
the
guys get like
government
a
is going to have their
integration with
data and they're going to
universities,
eat
and
it
then you
up.
also
yeah.
have
Do you guys get
an
like a
integration
boner or
with
something out of
fire.
nationalizing firms and stuff? Like, what
You
is-
you have
Do
the
you think
benefit
Americans
of
are going
like
to get off
police,
of the
social
government
workers, and
having their
fire
data?
departments all being integrated into this even more, just kind of like what we have in Canada. So it just becomes like
oh,
even
you're
better than what we
Canadian.
just
That's
had.
why he's saying that he doesn't get Americans.
Okay, so but
Exactly.
so
I
you're
get Americans. I
asking,
know they're dumb.
well, like what can be done
Yeah.
about this? But we've already started, right? The European Union has actually made progress on this, on the right to be forgotten, right? The right to have your data erased. That these companies have to obey that. Like you can just do that. We can just
Only that
write-
worked for like relationships.
right?
True.
DB Zap, no, they'll never forget. Not the dirty things you've toted. But you can actually do that. You can say that there is legal consequences if you do not properly disclose the data that's being collected, and if you don't destroy the data if by request, right? Like this isn't like a force of nature, right? This isn't global warming. When in 50 years, like your time scale, in 50 years, right, we're just going to be in a different climate. Even if we did something right now, right, like still we're going to be pretty fucked, right? So there's no reason to be
That's
doom
not what
about
I'm
this.
saying.
Just as like a society, we can decide whether we allow this slide to continue. It's really actually that simple.
It's not a doomer thing. It's about the fact that at the end of the day, when a big company, let's say all the regulations go through, all the fancy stuff you think Americans will be capable of like passing, which they never will. But let's say Europe has everyone is forgotten in Europe. Like Facebook in Europe is super ethical, whatever. In 50 years from now, when Facebook will tell you, if you give me your data, I will listen to your house, and when you say my sock has a hole in it, it's going to pop up a screen. It's going to let you pick your favorite sock, and then 5 minutes later, it's at your door. Eventually, people are going to go for that. Maybe not in 50 years, but at some point. So I think
might be
people
okay
will
with it.
voluntarily give up their data anyway. So I think it's kind of whiny to worry about that now.
Yeah,
Nobody's willing to give up the conveniences of Facebook. You don't have to use Facebook. You don't have to. None of your data will be with them if
No, that's not true. That's not true. What you just said is not true.
Okay.
The what?
I'll
The
take it
what part?
back.
They collect their data otherwise. They
Oh
don't-
yeah, Facebook collects your shit.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't matter. Just going
It was
around the
literally
internet.
so ironic when they went and changed their name to Meta. Meta, like it's like you're
when-
going on your face about it now. Like
When you're just traveling around the internet, it doesn't matter if you have an account with them or not. They actually are collecting data on you already.
Yeah,
You
100%.
know that okay, good. You know what would stop companies from having your data? Being
Stop using
online.
it.
Okay, all right.
You want to not do that?
Well, no.
Or we can have proper
look at this
contracts.
ridiculous dichotomy you're putting, right? Oh, okay. Well, then why are you even online? All right.
Cut
Like,
the power,
no.
man.
This
Cut
is
the
the
power.
no. Like, Wiggle was
Yeah, this
actually
is-
right. This is
yeah,
like the
I know.
socialist argument, right? It's like, well, you got a house, aren't you? What kind of socialist, right? Like
Yeah.
has a house. Like, what is
No, whatever.
this?
This is
exactly-
this is the
Guys,
this is
Just
the
cut
this is
power.
the
Listen,
this is the
I
freeloader.
I just realized that Katie, it's actually an anarcho-primitivist, and she just wants us to cut the power, okay, and go back to living in communal living, where we, hunt it, and that's what she wants. Just cut the power, okay?
A good
Like
Wiggle
I
Wiggle
and then-
actually
Wiggle
I
Wiggle, then
actually
Doobie. Go ahead.
I actually, you know what, like I have to extend the olive branch to like Lucas now, because at least you want something. At least you want change. Like I mean, like this freeloader just wants to live in a system where they say, "There's no way you're getting rid of the king. That's the king. Like, come on, this is the only way we can get our food. That's the only way it works. There's no
I think-
reason you're
so I
not
just
getting rid of the
Katie might be
plantation
a
owner.
conservative.
We just
Katie, are
gotta
you
do the
conservative?
work, sir." And then eventually one day, the system changes because of people like perhaps it's Lucas, perhaps it's Prime, perhaps it's Bryce, and then afterwards they say, "Oh, this is really neat what we have now. There's no way it's gonna change." It's
And
like
then if somebody's arguing for something different, she's gonna be like, "What are you doing? You're gonna get rid of the."
Yeah.
of
this is
the-
the same
I'm
people that
gonna-
want off for Martin Luther King Day. They want off for
I'm gonna
Christopher.
try
They want off
this
because of
one
Christopher
more
Columbus.
time.
They want off
Gonna
for
tr-
Martin Luther King. They want off for President's Day, but they don't believe in any of these people's missions.
I'm going to try this one more time, and it's fine if you don't. If you think I'm saying something else than what I think I'm trying to say, I think we are all competent adults with brains. And I think eventually big companies are
Not
going
Toby.
to come with an offer attractive enough to make people give up their data willingly. So we can stop and put regulations and whatever it is that we want now. But as far as how I understand the internet to go and how I understand technology to go, it seems that eventually there's going to be something that most people would go and say, yeah, that's worth it for me. And I'm just looking ahead to there because I'm not big on
You're talking
being
about the
worried about my
usability.
data being
You're talking
gone
about
anyway.
the usability and security dichotomy. Okay, that's a basic thing in like computer security, right? The more usable a system is, the less secure it is, right? The most secure system ever is like a computer that's like dipped in concrete and then thrown into the Marianas Trench, the deepest like ocean, right? Like the deepest rift in the ocean, right? Like that computer, no one's getting that data, right? But also no
one's
one's
hacking
using it, right? Yeah, exactly, right?
That's not what I'm talking
No,
about
no,
at
no, no.
all.
You're
But fine,
talking,
whatever.
no, but you're talking about convenience, right? You're talking about if we offer you a certain level of convenience, then you'll give up the security, and that in terms, in this sense, I mean your data, right? You'll give up your privacy because of that. Yeah, I get that. So there's a dichotomy there, right? The more whiz bang features that we offer people, right? They're like more of this, and you see that now. Exactly what you're saying. You see it now. With the fucking Alexas, right? They're listening to you. They're listening to you. I tell people they're listening to them, right? But it
Yeah,
offers
she's
that
listening.
convenience. Yeah,
She's listening right there. I don't care.
exactly, right? Yeah, and so, so it has begun,
It
right?
answers questions when I ask her. Okay, like that's all I care.
So people exactly, and so people will do that. That doesn't mean that well, we can still offer the people the options of doing that if this is something you want to do. If there's a product you want to do, then okay, right? But there's a difference between just allowing people to do that and allowing big data to do whatever the fuck it wants with that.
Sure, I
right?
agree with you. I have no issue with that. I just think at the end of the day, everyone's going to give up their data and privacy for
Yeah,
enough
we're getting
convenience. So it
transhumanism
seems weird
eventually. I love
to
it.
whine about it now.
Doobie.
Let's go transhumanism. I love it.
Hold on, Doobie. go ahead.
Ruby's gonna be able to become a frog.
Yeah, so I've been quiet just because I've been waiting for one of you to give me a reason to give a fuck about this, and none of you have, right? Yeah, I guess there's a possibility if hackers decided to hack this suicide hotline app thing, right? They could take someone's like individual discussion with one of their counselors and track it back to that person and mock them for being suicidal or some shit. Oh, dude, it's very scary, I guess. You know, that could possibly happen, sure. That seems like a weird just seems like fear mongering. I guess it's a possibility. I don't know how many hackers would be that interested in finding like a trans person's like family and be like, oh god, your son was on this app talking about being trans. You know, how dare he? Why would they bother hacking this fucking app for something like that? It seems really silly, right? I don't know. So
I can give you a direct
So,
response. to
We
that
had the
if you want.
fappening, bro. We had the
Oh,
fappening. We
hold
live
on,
in a
but the
new age.
fappening had like pictures and shit, right? And they're like names
So-
attached. You're talking about
so-
people taking individual discussions and then parsing through these discussions with all the identified data removed, and then figuring out that this is somebody in their town or something, right? Based on this discussion, right? I guess it's possible, right? If this were to happen,
so
but it
just to
seems like
interrupt you, if you don't mind.
kind of a weird thing to be afraid of.
So it is not so much the actual the hackers themselves like doing something with it. It's the fact that there's a significant trend of hackers getting a shit ton of data, and they'll basically do dumps, and they'll either like sell it to somebody. So in this case, they could sell it to like a lobby group. They could sell it to a pharmaceutical company. They could sell it to a lot of different people and get a huge cash cow.
And what would that company do
and
with
the
it,
government.
with this data?
I mean, if you sold it to a government, you could target people that are undesirable, like as somebody that might not be favorable to the regime. If it did it to a pharmaceutical company, they could tailor how they
Wait, hold on.
target
But if
and-
they're removing all the
Yes.
identifiable data, like all the names, locations, all that kind of shit, so this government would need to sort through millions of conversations that are happening on this app.
No.
right?
So if you don't mind me interrupting, there's actually
go
a
for it.
method for re-identification through generative models, meaning that there are processes that companies can do to hire either like just like a mathematician or something like
Are
that
you
in order to
talking about a
yield.
theoretical company right now? I am so confused. Because if we're talking about this company, I don't think the regime of the United States is going to go around for like 15-year-olds.
so
hands.
let me
before you go on, you're looking at this wrong area. So like, if I don't think we should be going at it from the hacker angle, but if Briss wants to go at it from the hacker angle, we can. But
Doing a great
why
job.
would they? Why
I
would
like
they target Loris, right, for the cut up data when they could just target the crisis text line for the full data, right? That's where the full data is. That's where you would target if it's going to be a hacker type situation.
Do you understand what the data is? Have you ever called a hotline?
No. We see.
Hang on.
So this is it. No, this is very important. This part's very important.
The reason,
Because
yeah.
hold on. This part's extremely important because what happens is that people don't understand the value of their data. Like what? Like who cares? They're just a bunch of pictures, right? And links to my friends, right? Like that's like not a big deal. Who cares? If people know who my friends are, right? Like surely not law enforcement. That's not a thing. Just because it's not immediately obvious to you, like what the purpose of the data, doesn't mean that using the power of big data that they can't find a purpose, a point to monetize it or to terrorize people with, right? You may not understand it. You don't even know all the points of data they're even collecting, right? And so you can't just say that this data means nothing. You absolutely cannot say that. 100%.
I'm not saying that it means nothing. I'm saying it's not nearly as valuable as it pretended to be without any reason to say that.
It's not nearly as valuable, and it's not nearly as dangerous as you guys are making it out to be, right? This kind of like a boogeyman that you guys are putting up that the governments are going to use this to track down trans or gay people in the countries to like root out the undesirables or whatever the fuck. Right? We're talking about the United States, Canada, and the UK and Ireland. Like I don't think these governments are going to be tracking down the gays right through this fucking data.
English government.
It's kind of silly, right?
The United States government and cyber and like we don't do anything.
A whole bunch of shit. Wait.
You're presupposing a bunch of shit. You're presupposing that at some point that the United States government has been extremely interested in, or any company has been extremely interested.
The United States government's never interested in data. It's like
I'm not talking about them being interested in data, right? I'm talking about you guys are again proposing that the data can be used to target, to single out people based on their transness or the gayness or whatever the fuck their membership is. Some group.
I never said
and then using this data to target them, to single them out.
Yeah, you're saying the same shit.
Right. So what? Okay, but because you guys keep saying this dumb shit, right? And
you
not
never
giving me a reason.
Explained it. I'm literally
well,
trying.
I never got to finish. I never got to finish my sentence because Bryce keeps interrupting me. Right. So I'd like to just finish the statement. So you guys keep presenting this as a possibility, right? First, give me your reason to believe that any of these governments would do anything like that. We're not talking about Iran or Saudi Arabia or something. Right? We're talking about the United States, Canada, and the UK and Ireland.
United States just never influences regime change, never uses data for nothing.
Wait, hold on. We're just talking about the United States. These are people in the United States.
No, it's already going to other countries. They're expanding to other countries.
Okay, can you tell me, can you like create a world for me in which this data from like suicidal people or lonely people that are texting this hotline is used to affect regime change in another country?
No, it's the idea of you. It's the idea of you vilifying other countries as if the United States doesn't do that. It's not about the data itself.
Bryce, you're pretending like you're giving this crazy weapon to the United States government.
Okay, Bryce, please.
Okay, so Doobie, the problem is not necessarily that the US is going to use it, right? You're specifically looking at it through a singular framing. If you can imagine that what you're doing is you're putting this data into a transferable form, meaning that's either going to be on the CTL servers or inevitably it's going to be on Loris's servers. Loris is going to launch new servers. They're probably not going to be as adequately hardened. And it doesn't matter if it's something that's stored on CTL servers or Loris's servers. It doesn't matter at all because the moment that a hacker gets it, he could sell it to any other state. They're not going to specifically sell it to just America. So you can imagine there is utility. Why does it matter? Why do I have to specify that there could be a use?
Why would Iran? Okay, so let's say this was sold. Let's say this was sold to Iran. What could
remember
Iran
the 2016 election?
What could Iran possibly do with a bunch of sad conversations between counselors and suicidal gay people? Like what do you in the United States?
They would be very upset about it. They don't like gay people.
Yeah, this also just seems really. You're mentioning that Bryce
This
is
is
what, like,
fear-mongering.
you were
It's
saying
like
that Bryce
stupid.
was the one that was kind of homophobic, but like it seems like you've made this all about like what you said, gay people. This is like just only like gay people, the only people that would try to harm themselves and call this hotline. I find that also kind of laughable.
Wait, hold on. No, that's not what I said, because initially you guys brought up the this data could be used to target undesirables, right?
No,
And then
initially
this
Bryce was making a
app,
larger
hold
point,
on. If you
and he
read the
brought up like
article,
one,
if you
two,
read the
three
article,
things. You
if you read
honed
the
in on
article,
one and then cut them off.
if you read the article, right, it
Yeah.
talks about how if somebody texts the word Mormon, or they text the word oral or something
Yeah,
to
it
the
would
app,
showcase
right?
that perhaps
Yeah,
that
they there's a higher likelihood that this person is struggling with their sexuality. They might be gay. They might need to talk to a counselor who specializes in that kind of conversation, right? So this is the kind of data we're talking about, right? So if you're saying, oh well, hey, it could be hacked and that it could be sold to Iran or to Russia, like what the fuck was that government going to do with
But
it?
that in itself is such a gross misunderstanding of what it said in the article. It was showcasing how just that specific segment was showcasing how a few words could display a greater meaning, which would just hurt your argument and help Prime's, mine, and Bryce's, is that a few words could mean something greater than like the average person would see. They're showcasing how just what they said, oral, Mormon, and they said one other, sex. Those three like words used together largely could indicate that somebody would be like gay or concerned if they're gay.
Sure.
But the average person wouldn't be able to see that. And so they're showcasing how important just a few things can that you wouldn't even think of
I
could
understand.
mean. So that just helps me, Prime, and Bryce's
No, it
side.
doesn't,
It's
because
the
again,
suicide
wait, hold on.
hotline.
You guys are again,
They're not
because
calling to shop online.
Yeah, and
It's
TikTok
not
is just an
viable
app
wait,
about
data.
music.
stop. Okay, because
TikTok's just
I
a music app.
understand that data
No,
can be
the
used
point.
to highlight certain like
Okay,
trends in the
so
conversations,
the
right?
whole
That
state
might
thing,
indicate certain things about the people having the conversation. I understand that, but you guys are telling me that we should be concerned about this being hacked and then sold to Iran or Russia, to some other
Nope,
state
nope.
government, right?
That's a
That might be
straw man
hostile or might
completely.
use it
What I made
for
was
bad
hyperbolic.
purposes.
I
Well, okay.
I made a hyperbole by explaining.
Well, then don't be
those-
hyperbolic if
you-
you don't want me to respond to the hyperbole.
It's fine. You can respond to the
tell
other.
me,
You
be
clearly
direct.
weren't understanding, so I made
Tell
the
me
hyperbolic
what to be afraid
point.
of in terms of a hacker getting this data and selling to another state. What could the other state do with these conversations between counselors and suicidal people?
Do you think privacy is important?
Okay, can you just answer my question?
Why don't you just steal his data and you'll find the answer? Because like you're never
Yeah.
gonna let him finish. Like,
Can you
If
answer
you
my
want to
question?
make this
please?
about privacy, make it about privacy.
Can you ask it
This
again?
wasn't about
Ask it again.
privacy.
Okay, you've been pushing on this thing that we should be concerned about this data being hacked, right? And then sold to some other state, right? That might use it for negative reasons, negative whatever. Give me, what could another state possibly use this data for, that we should be concerned about?
Okay, so we understand that we're not just talking about like a small singular bit of data, right? Like it's not something that's just like a couple thousand people here, a couple thousand people there. These are like hundreds of millions of texts. These are like a shit ton of messages of Americans. And from that data, they are able to re-identify a lot of people. So it can be used by more than, my example was hyperbolic. So what can be used realistically in this particular type of data with this particular data set is that it could be used by something like a pharmaceutical company, it could be used by a lobbying company, it could be used by the different political parties there. And what that could look like is they can do more than just, even though it's sliced, they can both re-identify people and they could probably look at different demographic details that they want, right? Like there are applications that are more than, I guess, like what you're willing to concede.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. So they're going to look at demographic details and what? So a pharmaceutical company is interested in selling pharmaceutical products, right?
Wait, okay, hang
So
on.
let's
why are you
say
being so obstinate?
they
Why-
identify.
you
They
can't even be like
identify.
the least bit charitable.
I'm being
Let me
charitable,
understand.
right?
Let
I'm
me explain.
responding to what you're saying, right? If
I
you
wanna
want to
expand on what I
expand
said.
on what you're saying, then go for it. But don't just give like crumbs and then expect me to pretend you gave me a cake,
Okay.
right? I love
Okay,
cakes. Give me
so-
a cake, right? Well, really quickly.
Sure.
So
I'll give you a cake. I'll
the
give you the best
pharmaceutical.
cake. I'm gonna give you an ice
go
cream
for it.
cake.
Please go for it.
Okay,
I don't.
so
Okay,
you can imagine.
to be fair,
Can I get
So
some?
you
ice
can
cream
imagine
cake
a
is the
rubber
worst
duck-
cake. Three Milks cake
Oh
is the
my-
best cake. Let's be
Yeah,
clear.
confirmed. Doobie has the worst takes. So the way that we could look at this, we could look at the Republican Party, right? Like, we could look at if they're identifying particular things with different demographics, they can alter the messaging and alter the pitch that they're giving to that particular demographic based off of it's not that difficult to imagine, like curating the messaging as it relates to like where somebody
Rhetoric.
is, what zip code they're
Disenfranchised
Zip
people that are depressed.
Rhetoric and
Yeah,
stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
Healthcare, insurance industries, right?
Yep.
Like, who is a threat, right? Who, like life insurance? Who am I going to sell it to? Maybe I should raise their rates if they are suicide. They've been suicidal in the past, right? Like that's like a simple example.
Who is likely not voting because they don't think it's something important to them. And
or like
how do
who's
I
depressed,
deal
like you
with
said,
it?
depressed.
I'm
Somebody
sorry.
that's depressed. Who is would be really easy to sell this like experimental depression medication to.
So, but here's the thing.
Poor
Okay,
people.
so like I'm gonna handle Katie in a second, but before that, I need to get something out of DB and I guess Lucas, right? Do you think there is any data that could be collected from individuals that could be dangerous, that big tech could do?
100%. Like, I don't think Dewey should disagree with that. Like, he himself hides all of his persona. Like you care about privacy, obviously.
Yeah. What do you
Hold
think?
on. I
DB?
care about privacy in some context. Right? So, for example, if I'm on Google, right, I'm searching up something on Google, I understand that the Google machine, this monster, has created a profile about me, and it's feeding me certain search results based on that profile. And usually, that's very helpful, right? That helps me
Yeah,
out a lot.
I agree.
So, or Alexa, which is right next to me as I'm speaking right now, it's listening to my conversations. Later on, it'll present me with ads based on shit that I said in this conversation. That's very useful
he
to
needs
me.
a girlfriend.
I
Go
like it. God damn it. I like that a lot. It's very useful, right? So yeah, I care
Is
about
that how you
privacy in some
found?
context,
Is
but
that
I
how you
think
find the AI girlfriend
but I
to
think
Alexa?
no, it's not. Like I told you, a user on my server has been dating the AI girlfriend for 6 months, and I don't judge them. Okay, it's totally
Okay.
A
fine.
user in a server.
Yeah,
That's how it is.
user.
Like
Alexa.
my friend is dating this AI.
Oh my
Okay,
god.
DB, finish.
Look, so in other contexts, right? I think privacy is very important, right? I don't think I wouldn't want Prime's porn searches pasted around everywhere. I think this is Prime's private business, right? Like
Yeah.
if he wants to look up weird shit, that's his thing.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't want to
So,
know what whether
yeah,
Prime,
some
like,
good, not some bad. Okay, I don't think it's black and white.
Okay, yeah. So here's the thing. Okay, you are at least a little closer to reality. Katie is gone, right? Katie has already, but you've already given up on this, right? You're like, it doesn't matter. We should just let it go.
No, no, no,
right?
no, 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 no.
You've already done that. Like, it's like, like, what's the point? Like,
That is a
you
general
can't-
argument. If you want to talk about this specific thing, I think you guys need to fucking decide if you're worried about people hacking this like whatever corporation and
The
then
liberal.
targeting specific individuals, or if you're worried about people using this meta-analysis to specify different demographics. So what we talked
Why
about,
not
I think
both?
Bryce brought it up. No, because both have different arguments to them. The point that someone would have, even if 10 people, even if 100 people would get personally hacked, and someone would call their parents and tell them they called the suicide line, that's still more people helped by that company than the people who will be harmed by that.
Okay.
So I'm not worried about that. I don't give a fuck, okay? If we're talking about demographics being evaluated, then I think Bryce made a very good point that like pharmaceutical companies can make use of that data. I don't know how much they'll be able to do in terms of using that data in a way that isn't helpful. I guess if they're American pharmaceutical companies, they could make drugs that suicidal people want to use more addictive. So maybe they could do that. So maybe you can bring me in on that.
I mean, this is kind of what I was getting
So
at the
no,
beginning. right?
I haven't finished. I haven't finished. Right. My point was that your perspective is too myopic. Right. One, that healthcare thing was great. That I brought up too. Right. Like that was like fantastic because yes, healthcare industries can use this. This isn't a new topic. Like I didn't come up with this. Right. Like, and it has nothing to do with this particular company. Like that's been something that privacy experts have been afraid of for years, for decades now. Is that the more of this data that we have, but like for instance, your genetic data, can be used to see like if you are more likely to be an alcoholic, right? Like, and
you
then
understand
that, could have
that your genetic
consequences.
data is not equivalent to you calling a hotline for
I
emotional
know
support?
that. So
Do
my
you?
point, yes, I do, but you haven't let me finish, and then so you don't understand my argument. So if you just take a moment and just let me finish, then you'll get it, right? Then you'll be enlightened. So here we go.
Look
We'll
at
try
how
it
much they
again.
want to commodify. Like they
Yeah,
want to
right.
commodify
So like,
shit.
it's not just this, because what you did, Katie, right? You're like, well, what's the difference? Let's give it up, right? It's going to happen any which way. Can we actually control any of this?
God.
So the point is that big data in general, not just this particular data set, right? I think there's plenty of damage can be done with this data set, but like, it's not just that. Like, big data in general and the things that it can be used against are dangerous, right? Whether in the quote-unquote right hands, meaning the people who gather it and who they intend to sell it, meaning just the people who paid them for it, right? Or the wrong hands, which means the people who took it unauthorized, right?
Prime, you have enlightened me.
Yeah,
I thought we were talking about
but don't
this
worry, I'm not
specific
done.
company.
You haven't reached nirvana yet. Okay, so
I'm very
yeah,
nirvana.
He's gonna take you to
Good.
Nirvana. He's gonna take you to Nirvana.
That this data, sorry, not just this data, but the threat of big data in general is huge. It's amorphous and it's so big that people have trouble wrapping their heads around it, as this conversation has made it very clear, right? This data in general, big data and the deep learning, right? Deep AI learning, they're using it. It's finding new truths, right? Now, a lot of these discoveries are actually quite useful, right? Most of them are not nefarious, right? Most of them are like Doobie was saying, it's search results that are useful to people, that people would actually want, right? Something more personalized. But that doesn't mean that data cannot be used, right, by either government or malicious actors, right? Both random hackers and those in a fucking corporate boardroom, right? To be damaging to individuals. It doesn't matter. So you're focused like on just this one data set. It's like, well, I can't see with my I can't see how this could be damaging, right? Even though I've never seen the data set. I don't know how they've anonymized it. I don't know the process of anonymizing it, right? I don't know what's done with it afterwards. But sure, I can't see how this might be a problem. Okay, right? Well, then let's try to expand your view. If you can't see it here, let's expand your view to all
If
the
you want
other
me to
data
agree
that
with
these
you, you're going
corporations
to
have
have
been
to let
doing
me
it.
talk, right?
Okay, there you go. Oh, have you reached Nirvana? Go ahead.
I told you half
He
an hour
took you
ago
there.
that I have, sweetie. You
Oh, good.
okay?
This
So
has
Proud of
very
you, Prime.
weird
Keep it up.
sexist undertones, and I want to notify that I acknowledge it, and I'm going to step back.
thank you.
Good job, Primes.
So,
I'm proud of you.
so I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about this specific company. Apparently, we're talking about big data and how it's evil. Sure, I agree with you. I don't know how this specific company is evil. That was what I was arguing for. But if we're just like want to say that big data is evil, then yes, it's very evil. It's the worst. We should stop it. There you go. I'm on your side.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
they're doing the
Fascinating.
socialist thing, right? So you start out talking about a specific company, and they can't find a problem wrong with that company, so they expand to capitalism in general. And oh god, all
Yeah.
capitalism is bad. It's all exploitation, yada yada yada.
This is why I
We're
was
talking
upset
about
with this
this
topic
specific-
in the first place. It's like, I'm going to take this company and I'm going to pretend they're doing a
Yeah.
bunch of bad shit that has nothing to
This
do
is
with
the
them, just to make a broader point.
Dude, Doobie's doing that whole immoral thing, you know, like, wants you to sell everything, you know, like, wants you to sell your toes, wants
Honestly-
you to sell your family members, even, like, I mean, come
I just
on,
wanna
like,
make it clear-
what is the worst thing that could
Capitalism
happen?
is
What's the worst thing that could happen?
We've already given you examples of how the data was used. We've literally already given you examples. You've ignored all those, and then
Not
we say,
this
okay,
specific data.
let's try
That's
to
not true.
expand.
Selling
Yes, we
data?
literally
I
did.
ignore them?
We
Selling
literally
data?
did.
What is Arad gonna do with numbers on a piece of paper? Was
Wait,
selling
again,
data?
nobody here is saying that all data that could possibly be sold is not a bad thing, right? It can be used for harm.
Like,
Of course,
Doobie,
some
go.
data, if it were sold, if a government got their hands on it, if anybody got their hands on it might be a problem. Of course, right? Nobody's going to disagree with that. We're talking about this specific app, right? This specific data. You guys have tried to present a couple things that were like very weak, very floppy, flimsy, even noodly.
Like
I'd
Fogdick.
say.
Yeah, go ahead.
But how can it? Like,
Non-existent
even
apparently, like for
even
others,
one of
okay?
these, first of all, one of these things was like it's not even something that could be foreseen. And then like Bryce brought it up, and like none of you guys have an argument for it. I don't
Wait,
even
what
have an
was the
argument
thing?
for it.
What was
He
the thing?
talked
the
about.
thing?
He said that you guys the process that they talk about, anonymizing or whatever. Like he brought up that there's a process to work that backwards, which they mentioned in the article, and he's showing that they could do that with some level of efficiency. And then all of you guys just brushed it off instead of listening to him. So it's like, yeah, if somebody's telling you that there's a way of working something backwards to do what the company says they're doing to protect your data, like I imagine you'd want to listen to that person to see what is the efficacy of that process and if it's been done before. Like,
Wait, I think we all said that if that happens, then that's a problem, and the company should be held liable for
no,
that. If it
I
doesn't,
imagine
then
you
why
said
are we
that, and I
fighting
agree with
Only
you.
the bad things we say should be listened to. When we say it's unethical or bad that X and Y and Z would happen, that's ignored because we're
But
the
then when
ones that
somebody
ignoring your
explains to you
arguments,
how
right?
it can happen and is telling you the process, you don't let them speak, and you say, "What? They're just going to try and target one specific group in like one country somewhere? What is
I
it?
can
What?"
sit here and
You can't sit
conjure
there.
all the
You can.
possible bad things that would happen, and
You
I
have
can
been. You
recognize
have been.
that they're bad. No, you've been doing a great job for me. It's almost like reality only exists in a bad way. This company can only do bad things. But we're not talking about this company. We're talking about big data, right? But you keep coming back to this company. So which one is it? I already agreed with you. Big data in general is very bad. Evil, bad, bad. Okay?
And
so
we
I don't know.
and then
I'm on your
we've
side.
given you like 5 examples of how it can be used badly. And once again, you completely ignore everything, right? And then we
The
tell you, we give you
examples
these
you're giving are
examples,
not
right?
about this
And then you
company.
don't
I'm
listen
sorry,
to them.
sweetie.
And then you
They're
say,
not about this company.
big data. And then we say,
They're
okay, well,
bad.
let's try to expand it to big data. And then you're like, oh, I guess big data is that bad.
I
But then let's
will
go back to
go
this
about
company,
every
right? And you
fucking
still haven't told
topic
me
that
anything
you
bad about
gave
this company,
about this
right?
specific
Oh my
company.
God, it's amazing.
No. I've listened to the stuff that you said about this specific company and a bunch of stuff you made up about this company, pretending it does that stuff. And the stuff that you
Wait.
did say was bad, I dismissed because I think it's stupid. And we can talk about it again and I can show to you why it is. Although I might not be in nirvana.
You
at that
asked
point,
for a
right?
hypothetical, though.
Well,
like
I'll
you
help-
asked,
well,
what
I'll
I
could
want
be
to
done with
stress
the
the second
data
time that
if they
Nirvana
get-
shit was cringe. But go on.
We'll get you to Nirvana, don't worry.
Stop saying that. It's so cringe. It's so weird and sexist and it's weird, but I'm gonna continue.
It's not sexist, it's sexual, not the same.
So
So I was just
Okay.
gonna say. So I was just gonna say that there's. I don't think that this company itself is unethical. I think they do a lot of effort. Like they contribute. Sorry, they put a lot of effort into exploring bioethics and ethics and working with contemporary researchers in terms of like academia, like ethics research, to ensure like what kind of things can be done to protect the data, etc. But as Prime pointed out, when you have something that is as vast as something as like millions of texts, there's still going to be it's going to get used on a regular basis, going to get accessed on a metric fuck ton of bases, and then from this is going to still like no matter like how good you are at protecting the data, there's always going to be the opportunity for somebody to make a 0-day, like some kind of exploit to get in there. So it's
Can I
just
ask
something.
you a
Hang on,
question?
wait. Let me finish. The thing there is you just have to recognize that, okay, we have to take the security here seriously because there are ethical implications of this data getting leaked and then being
I
sold
agree
to
with you. Can I ask you a
parties.
question?
By all means, ask me a question.
Okay. So let's say this company wasn't transferring the data to the profit-oriented company, which I agree is unethical and not a good look, and they shouldn't do that, and it's cringe. I have no issue with that. So this company is a strictly a non-profit, and that data could still be accessed, right? All the bad, evil things can still exist because the database exists, right? So it's not about the transfer to the profitable company. It's just about
Well-
the existence of the data. So would you then
So-
say that the only ethical or like reasonable or like safe way is if they immediately erase the data? Is that what we're saying? Because they're using the data to optimize their own service to help people like not kill themselves.
I'd be more okay with that.
Well,
I
why?
have
There's still
two
the risk
general.
that they can get hacked. Like, this is why
No,
I'm feeling
I'd
like
be
the
more okay
argument.
with.
Wait, this is
Yeah.
why I feel like the problem that you guys have is not the hacking itself. It's you just guys have a problem with capitalism. You're attacking this company because it's selling the data. Like,
I
I don't
hold
know.
on.
I
Like,
wish
I
they
need to
would.
clarify that I
They
no.
don't. They care
Wait.
about the hacking.
Hey,
It's the
here,
stupidest argument
No,
I've
you
ever
you didn't even listen.
very fast.
Oh
very
my god,
fast.
Prime, shut the fuck.
Like
You didn't
you're,
listen. Sorry,
there's
no,
the
didn't listen.
you didn't. No,
I'm
no, you
sorry.
didn't listen
You're just
because I
stupid.
specifically addressed this. No bullshit. I literally, because this is what I'm saying. I specifically addressed this point. I'm saying, hey, like, why would an attacker attack the daughter company, right? Why not attack the actual company where the data exists? I specifically addressed
So you want them to
the
delete
hacking
the
thing,
data?
right? And yes,
Would that
hold on.
make you happy?
Then I'll fucking answer it for you. Here's what they should do, right? This and here's what society needs to do. We need to decide, right, what data is acceptable. We have not had this conversation. It has not existed. It hasn't happened at all, right? We need to decide as a society what we want companies to be keeping for themselves, right? So like an example could
You
be
want-
that an example
want this data erased?
could be
I'd be more okay with that. Yes.
is that like they
after
could,
it's been used.
yeah,
They're
keep a
using the
tiny
data
subset.
to improve their methods.
I
No, I'm
get
talking
it.
about once they give it to the for-profit company that you're describing. I'd be more okay if that for-profit company, once they utilize the data, then deleted it.
I
Because
agree
what is
with you.
stopping? What's stopping from the What's stopping a for-profit company from just being bought and then your data?
I'll
is
do you
transferred?
one better wiggle.
couldn't
I don't
they-
think they should pass it to the profit company. I think they should use the data to maximize their own method, and then they should delete it.
See,
I
I knew
unf-
it. This is capitalism bad.
I
You were right.
unfortunately
it is
have to agree
capitalism
with
bad.
this. Specifically because what you stated
love
earlier is that
capitalism.
the United States wouldn't be
Same.
willing to do something that Bryce is talking about, and they would just allow this to they'd allow this private company to do this whole process. But yeah,
Bryce.
like I would agree with you that it's the best option that we would have given what people in America would likely want.
Bryce, you
Yeah,
posted this.
So we agree. Awesome.
Bryce, you posted
Yeah,
this study about to kind of hand wave the anonymization that they do to the data right before passing it off.
It's
Can
in
you-
the
can
article.
you
This is
tell
something
me-
from the article?
Can you tell me what this study is about and what data that they were using to re-identify the people that they re-identified with this?
Yeah, sure. They were using data from the, what's it called? The U.S. Public use microdata sample. They're using some Gaussian copulus. I'm not terribly. I don't know the math. This math is outside of what I'm familiar with. But sorry, Gaussian. Wait, I had it here just a second. Gaussian copulus to model uniqueness. So it seems like something called like a generative model. So yeah, they used that data from the U.S. and they had. What was it? Individual uniqueness from like 0.84 to 0.97 with low false discovery rate. And they found that, so I'm assuming like false discovery rate is
You're just
like,
reading the abstract.
Yes, I am. Because you're trying to challenge
Okay.
me. Like what you were trying to do is
Well-
you were trying to assume that I didn't read a lot of the article, and so I'm just kind
Well,
of.
no. What I'm assuming is that you linked this thing, which is talking about re-identifying people based on incomplete data sets or anonymized data sets. But this is talking about using talking about where they have like 15 identifiers, right, or ways to like single out a person. So they say, okay, well, one of those is a 33-year-old. Then you can say, oh, 33-year-old with this specific disease, 33-year-old with this disease and this zip code, a 33-year-old with this disease and this zip code with this color hair. That they're not going to get that data from this the suicide hotline shit or suicide
You
text
don't
line.
know. Data is very
Right.
valuable.
Be-
People
so
get
it's
all
It's
that
not
data.
limited exclusively. So
These
you have to
people-
understand that the
these
model
people
is
are
what
not-
matters. And mathematics is what matters, not the specific identifiers.
Wait, hold on. But they needed 15 identifiers to single out a person. Do you think these people, when they're talking to somebody about being lonely or depressed, suicidal, are giving them 15 identifiers that can be used to track them down?
You don't need something. So you need demographic. Wait, okay, hold on. So there's a thing on. I guess you didn't read like everything that was available. There's a thing from Imperial College London, University of Louvain, where you can enter in three things, and it is something like an 81% chance of identifying you correctly.
What three things?
Zip code, gender, and date of birth.
Zip code,
promise
gender,
you that
date of
they-
birth.
Yep.
Okay. Do you think that when these people are talking to these crisis hotline people, they're giving them their zip code or their date of birth, right? Like, no, probably not, right? So again, we're talking about. I understand that if they got this other data that you're talking about, yeah, that could be used to single out a person to find a unique individual, right? Of course, right? But they're not. It's very unlikely that they're giving these counselors their zip code,
what
their
data
date of
do they
birth,
give the
their
crisis
hair
Wait,
color.
I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm not
What
100%
data?
sure on this,
No,
but I'm
again-
pretty sure in the article they stated that like there's some of these companies that like I think in this specific example it might have been the company like you consent to give more information. They can utilize your phone and look at other apps you have. And it's just those companies specifically say that
That
they're
doesn't
not
mean they're
going to
taking
use
the data from the apps.
Yeah, that's what the company says, and you're supposed to believe them. You know, like.
Okay, we're doing the big corporation, the corporation's bad thing again. Okay.
Well, I mean, like.
And you guys would rather that this thing not exist, so that people
no,
don't
I'm
have
just
to
curious.
text
Destroy
None
the
of you
What do they have?
understand. None of you
Yeah, it's
understand the
stupid.
concept of metadata. None of you understand the concept of metadata.
Doobie,
You don't
remember-
understand the concept of mental health. I'm sorry.
No, no. But
This
metadata
is the
is what we're
most
talking
whiny
about.
bullshit.
But metadata is what we're talking about, and that's the thing you understand. That's what we're talking about, big data, not the individual, like what they said within this phone call, right? And that's just it. That's the data. But then there is the metadata, right? And the metadata can come in all kinds of ways, right? Part of it is how you even contact them to begin with, right? If you use WhatsApp uses a certain amount of data, right? If they are able to interface with that data, right, then they can make inferences just from that, right? From Facebook Messenger, they can make inferences just from that. Like, that's all you need. That's metadata, data surrounding the data, like data that describes the data. All of that is attached, and that is what you use, right? It's not what Doobie is saying is that, oh, are you giving, oh, I live at 27034, right? That's my zip code, right? No, they don't have to actually say that. You can actually derive that data from this data set,
Prime,
the
can I ask you a
metadata. But if you don't
question?
get that,
But don't
then this makes no
Bryce
sense to you.
Wiggle-
Can
Wait,
I
but
ask you?
don't Bryce and Wiggle want to like let this company grow and then nationalize it? Like, am I supposed to trust the state more than the U.S.
Oh, no.
government more than the
Well,
corporation?
if I would
All
answer
things that
you,
is
but if
really
I answer you, then
corporation
Doobie would say that it's just like people trying to make it into like a larger subject. Maybe Kate or Katie would say the same thing, but I think Doobie's been saying that. But yeah, like I'm not gonna speak for Bryce, but I'd say like yeah, what he proposed earlier sounds really nice. Like that sounds like really nice.
Yeah, so,
You're saying
so-
trust.
our corporation's bad.
Yeah,
That's
because we all
really-
know that the U.S. government never gets
hang on,
hacked, of
wait,
course.
that's completely mischaracterization. So the reason why I'm saying nationalize it, because when we look elsewhere in the world where other capitalist nations are, basically anywhere except the US, we see that things like this can be effectively used by the state and actually still impact an overall good for society. So it seems like, generally speaking, Americans are dumb and everybody else is like, wait a second, this is probably good to integrate with our police, paramedics, and social workers.
You're okay with the state having this information, you're just not okay with my corporations having it. Okay. Go on.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
Katie
again,
wants
as
to-
if
continue to
the state-
mischaracterize me.
trust
all
As
their
you
if the
have.
state,
governments
as if the state never gets hacked, of course.
Katie wants to ask me a question. But before that, I'll
Our
just say
government is
that
the
someone
best
in
cybersecurity
someone in
in
the
the
chat
Yeah,
has
100%.
claimed that they
Super
called this hotline,
Better than
right?
everyone
The
else,
specific
yes.
hotline we're
Yeah.
talking about, and he's like, well,
Which other
they
country
sent.
has better cybersecurity
sent-
than us?
Sorry, someone said that they called the specific hotline in chat. They've been talking about this entire time, and they said the hotline sent cops to their dorm without them ever getting their address, because you don't have to do that for them to find you. That's pretty simple, actually, especially when you're using a mobile phone. But there you go. All right, Katie, you want to ask me something,
That's
please?
fair. I don't want a suicidal person having cops there to prevent them from killing themselves. I agree with you, Prime.
Moving
don't
the
want-
goalposts. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
because
ahead.
then they're gonna
please.
have a
No,
bill. Oh God,
I
you know
just-
they'll be alive and not
I
have
thought
a
it
bill.
was a
Oh,
really-
it's terrible.
Moving the goalposts.
Yeah, it's disgusting the
Moving
way
the
that they
goalposts.
save
That's okay.
people's
That's
lives.
okay. We can all see it, but that's fine. Go ahead.
It's okay. So my question was gonna be, I understand that I don't understand metadata mining. Okay, I get that. Can you tell me what's the solution for this specific company? Because I assume that there's something bad about what they're
I don't
doing
even know
as
what
well.
the problem is.
I know.
I thought
There's no problem.
we
spent-
agree. I
No,
thought
no,
we
I
agreed.
really want to hear from a person who knows the stuff me and Doobie don't understand. Can you tell me what the solution is, please?
Literally.
I want to learn.
Okay.
I want to
Okay.
reach
Well, then
nirvana.
Before you say the solution, can you say what the problem is again? Because I'm still trying to figure it out. Like
We are
you
not
keep
smart enough to
switching
understand the
topics. Yeah,
problem.
I think we're not.
No,
But I thought you and I agreed, Katie, or were you joking? Like the agreement that
No, what I said earlier, I completely agree. I have no issue with that data being deleted once it's done being processed. Like, I think that's a great idea.
So this is specifically like a question for Prime. It's like I'm good, like Bryce is good, because I imagine Bryce, you'd agree as well, or no? You want something else to happen?
Why do you guys hate marketing? Like, what's the problem with marketing?
Bryce's thing also doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
not a problem
I
with
think it's
marketing.
disgusting to use people's mental health struggles to promote marketing.
To say that the government might use this data if they got it to influence elections or voting habits or whatever the fuck, but then offer that the program should be nationalized, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
one how
it's
you
more
don't trust the
direct.
government with the data, but then you want to give the government all the data from the start.
Yeah,
it's
Framing.
But before you
it's
start
like,
arguing
framing.
with
You're
them,
looking
Prime,
at
can
it-
I
you
don't
just
know.
tell
It's
me
like
what the right answer is?
like
I mean, I can understand why you couldn't seem to grasp it because you seem to be lacking any kind of charitability. But what I'll say is
God.
that
I'm not going to be
I mean, hey,
charitable
you're
to
gonna
you
shitpost,
when
I'll
you're saying
shitpost
dumb
too.
shit, and then I ask you about the dumb
Okay,
shit
when
you
you're
said, and then you say
saying
more
dumb
dumb
shit-
shit. At some point, you've lost all the charity points, and I'm going to assume you're an idiot. So just say what you want to say.
Okay.
please.
All right. So since we were just talking shit and shit posting, I'll say that since you're too dumb to understand, there's a difference when somebody is buying illicit data, meaning that data was acquired and means that are illegal or otherwise, and a difference between like a state enterprise that is specifically has more transparency and accountability to the people.
Wait, what? Okay, so let's say the state is willing to buy this data illegally from a hacker that took it from a private company.
It doesn't. It doesn't have to be the state. It could
Wait,
be
hold
like a
on. You
company,
said it. You
corporation.
said state. You said state, right? So
Sure, I did. It's one.
Again,
It's one. It's not
this is why I told you to say
exclusive.
what you mean, because I'm going to respond to what you say. Right? So you said you presented me. Oh God, the state
I
might
think we
buy
made it
this data
abundantly clear that it's not
illicitly
exclusive to the
from a
state.
hacker that hacked this company and then use it for
And it's not just hackers.
nefarious ends, right? Sure, that could happen. But now your solution is to give that same state that might purchase this data illegally, just give to them up front.
Just give it to them from the beginning.
That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, but he described exactly why. It's
Hang on.
transparency. If I buy something
Yeah,
illegally,
so
am I going to
there's
tell
an
you? That?
entirely different kind
Do you
of
think they'd be
transaction. There's an
transparent about buying
entirely
it
different
illegally?
transaction.
Like what?
No, I'm saying they'd be transparent if it wasn't illegal. Like if it's like
Why
you're
would you
talking about,
assume
it's like
that? Why would you
if I
assume
wanna
that they'd buy it
influence-
illegally, but
if I wanna
but
influence-
also that they'd be transparent?
if I want
What
to
are you saying?
influence, if I want to influence,
Right, I'm going to say it
an
again
election,
since you're so
right?
dumb that you can't
Thank you.
grasp the original framing. I'm going to say it again.
All
So
right,
when you
help
have
me out, please.
situations
Help
like
me
a
out.
company, when you have situations like a company that is going to try to get this data, a hacker that's trying to get this data, there are multiple situations where somebody could use this data. And the other alternative is that you could have your government, which is more transparent, which has a more accountability to use this data. Those are two entirely different transactions. Like I don't know how you can not see that these are two.
You literally
different
said
transactions
before
entirely.
that you had a problem with them holding the data because a hacker could get it and give it to the government. But now you're saying that you want to give it to the government from the beginning. So now would you just remove?
He was saying governments.
No.
He was saying governments, and then
You
Well,
don't
can
seem to
hackers not
grasp it.
hack
Like
the
I don't know
state,
why
though?
you're
Like,
this
are we
dumb.
really
Like I don't,
pretending
is it
that-
you just willfully being dumb, or is this?
No, I
like,
just-
I don't
think
think
willful,
you're being
that's
dumb.
fine.
I think you're just saying dumb shit, and then you're
Yeah.
repeating the dumb shit over and over again.
you were the same
As if-
individual that was
as if you
vilifying other
changed any of it,
countries
right?
and then showcasing.
I'm not
putting
vilifying
America
them.
on a- yes, you
wait,
were.
Hold on.
You were
wait, hold on.
vilifying Saudi
No, I
Arabia,
wasn't
etc., and
vilifying
putting
them at all.
America on a pedestal. And
Okay,
now when he's
this
talking
is-
about
this is-
Oh my
I said
God,
fuck
maybe
all
I'll
of
Pacific
explain it to
countries
you.
having data.
maybe I should have been more clear. So Wiggle, the reason I brought up that it's not Saudi Arabia or Iran is because the data that they're collecting is not from people
Okay,
within
here's
Saudi
an
Arabia
example,
or
right?
Iran.
So
Right?
you
So
have
even
two
if they
private
were to
individuals,
find
right?
these people,
There's two
these people
private
are not in
individuals
Saudi
that are
Arabia
having
or
an
Iran
exchange of
where being
candy.
gay or
One person
homosexual
gives
activity
the
is illegal.
person candy,
So the
and
people in
other
this
person
country have nothing
steals
to
the
fear from
candy,
this
right?
data. That's the
In
point that I was making with
one
that. Wiggle.
situation, candy is stolen. In the other situation, one of the people, the two people, is a teacher, and the candy is given. Do you understand that these transactions are different, or do you still think because there's a process
I
where
understand that you
the
want the
candy was
state
given
to
to somebody
candy,
else?
yes. Yeah, you want the
Is-
state to
You
steal
think
the-
you think this is dangerous? You want them to get the dangerous shit legally rather than illegally. I understand.
Yeah, so then somehow the magic of the state will make it so the state won't do bad shit. Yeah, I
Wait,
don't know.
what do you mean? Okay, we have a greater history of companies
Wait.
doing more malicious shit with data than
Then the state?
the United States. Yes.
I'm not even gonna push back on that. I'll just let you
Hey, by all
keep
means,
living
I don't
your-
think that you
Thank
could
you.
actually give me an example. So go for it.
What do you want? You want me to like give you stuff that the United States does with our
United States-
data?
No. Worse than private companies.
Yeah, tell me which one is the worst thing that you can think of.
No.
that a corporation-
You can't pivot back on me. You're making a claim. Stand
What
by
is
it.
the worst one that you can think of? So I'll beat it.
No.
I have to beat it, right? I need to know what is it that I'm
Why is
need
the
to
onus
show
on
me-
him? The onus is on you.
Because I need to know what is it that I'm beating. He told me to
You
say
need to know a
something
lot of
worse,
things.
right?
No,
But right
you
now, what
just-
you need is answer him.
What is
You
the
were
bad?
trying to
tell me,
weasel
what
out
is
of
the
it.
worst thing you can think of that a corporation has done with data, right? So I can tell you what
You were
way
so
worse thing that the
confident
state has
just a
done.
second ago.
Come on,
You were
tell
so
me.
confident
This
just
isn't
a
a
second ago.
dance. This is like
me.
him asking you a
Tell
question.
me what is
and
the
you're
worst
supposed
thing
to
that
answer it,
the
Lucas.
corporation has done with your data? Tell me. Nothing, right? You got nothing? Do you have
What are you
anything
talking
bad
about?
that
This
corporations
is-
have done with your data?
Why are
that
you
is
trying to
bad?
pivot so much? You were trying so hard to
Do you
pivot
have
out.
anything? If you have
You were
nothing,
so confident just like a second ago.
listen,
Why can't you
no,
just tell me
didn't.
something?
If you have nothing, all I have to do is say one thing,
What did
and
the
then
government-
right there. Wait,
Yeah,
no, let me
but
finish.
by all means,
The state
please
has done
tell.
worse.
Okay, what?
What, like, you want me to talk about like
Yeah,
the
they
prison
use-
system and how the state uses like data collection to like get people in jail for things like weed and the drug war and stuff like that? You want me to talk about that? Tell
Yeah,
me about
by all means,
something.
please.
Tell me
please
I
something
mean,
do
worse.
like for example, your
Please,
GPS
that's fine.
tracks every movement of yours, right? If you have an Apple, right, like iPhone, all of your geolocations are like stored, right? And that can be requested by the government, and it can be used to
Yeah,
have
but
you
that's
arrested or
private
whatever.
company that has
Tell me
all
a
your
worse thing
stuff in the first
than the
place.
drug war. Come on, tell me something worse than the drug war.
Look,
Come on,
worse than the drug war. What the fuck is this like random?
tell me something
tangent?
worse. You said that the corporations do worse thing than the government with your data. Tell me one thing worse than that.
What do you think is better? Do you think a company that has no accountability and has absolutely
You're
no?
not answering my question.
They
Tell
do
me
have
something worse than the
accountability,
drug
there are
war.
regulations
Hold
and
on,
laws.
let
Tell
me
me something
let me
worse.
respond.
Who do you trust? This is laughable because like you bring up the drug war and then you can look at legalization of cannabis, and what has happened is that there's more government regulation and cannabis is safer and more potent than it's ever been versus
Because of
when
the
it was on the street
regulations,
as a
or
black
because
market. When it was on the
because
street as a black market
no.
product.
Yeah, guess what? When the state makes something illegal and it makes it harder for people to trade it like properly, right? It makes it so only criminals want to
And
trade
when
those
the
things.
government regulates it, it's safer than
No,
it
it's
was
not
when it was
because
on the
the government
street.
is regulating. It's because it's not on the
No,
black
it's not.
market
It's
anymore.
not that the
Denise.
government's regulating that's making the restrictions so that it's safer for everybody.
Wait, you think that people that were growing marijuana on like their garage or their attic were capable of doing safe growing marijuana is safe, or do you think that a corporation now that they have access to it because they can
I
do it
believe
legally?
corporations
Wait, no,
exist
let me
for
finish.
profit. So it's like the government
So
is
do
saying,
individuals. Everybody moves in a profit basis.
yes,
Okay,
but I
everybody
believe that
trades
the government is
for
willing
profit.
to take a loss. They're willing to say, hey, and on top of that, the government mandates things. They mandate, hey, for health and safety of Americans, we're going to have these
Bryce
restrictions.
still didn't answer my
You're gonna-
question, by the way.
He didn't have to.
Wait, what?
You're the one that was posing
I
something
literally
on
think I
him.
gave
You
some
made a
really
claim
bad
about
things
his
that has done
statement.
with data.
You made
Dewey
a
gave
claim about
another
his
thing.
statement,
He
and
hasn't
so
said anything about
you
corporations
made a
doing
claim about
really
his
bad
statement.
shit.
You have to
Yeah, because
justify it.
so the
Now you're
reason
trying
why I
to do
didn't
a
even bother to
workaround.
engage you on that is because
You got
that's
nothing.
something that I didn't
got
say in
nothing.
the first place. The reason why I say that the state is better to be wielding this is specifically, you can go back and watch the VOD. I really recommend that you do that. Is specifically because we see that across the world, beyond the United States, beyond your glorified shit country, states are able to integrate it effectively with public services like the paramedics, social workers, and in some cases like police, etc., to like a great efficacy, right? So if we see that this is a good thing, there's I would love to hear a reason on why you don't think
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
And there are plenty of things that corporations can do that are good things with the data, right? That's not what we're talking about. You talked about the state is less bad than corporations. So I gave you a bad
I've
thing that
never said
corporations.
less bad. I specifically said earlier on, you can watch the VOD. I recommend that you go back and watch it.
So
I
do you?
specifically say that
Who
I
do you
don't.
prefer to
Oh,
have
hang
the
on.
data? Why do you prefer the state to have the data instead of the
He said
corporation?
just said-
transparency
I
for one
just said.
example.
Why do you trust the state then more with the data? Do you think the state is just intrinsically more transparent than corporations?
I think that there is, by the structure
Yes.
of government, even though, okay, hang on, even though that there are chances that the state can do bad things with that, I think that built into the state itself and through like democratic processes and other systems built into government structures, there is more like a higher chance of accountability and transparency. I'm not saying it's impregnable. I'm not saying it's because I never said that corporations are bad. I just want to make that clear.
I mean,
Yo,
you're saying
love
that
you.
the
I'd
state is
actually
better
love you
at
to.
this than
No, I've got a
corporations, so you're
challenge for you. I will give you $20. I'll PayPal you $20 if you can watch the VOD.
you can you're
and
not you
find a
didn't say
quote.
that outright.
Find a
You
clip.
implied you
No, I didn't say
implied
it outright.
You
I
should listen,
implied it.
man. You're
Okay,
an
I'd
empath.
love,
You're
I
talking
would
about
love
money.
you to
listen,
watch the
no,
VOD. I'd love you to watch the VOD and find
Price.
a
If you
clip
say
of
that
me
the state is better at
saying,
doing something than corporations, that means that corporations are worse at doing something than the state. Does that not mean that?
that
Or
is
is the
different
state
than
better
saying
than corporations
corporations
and
bad.
corporations
You are
better than the
saying that
state?
I'm saying corporations are bad just because
You're saying
something.
that they're worse than the state.
You understand? No,
It's the
hang on.
same
I
thing.
didn't put a value judgment on corporations. I think that it is because of other reasons better for the state to be the one can control this company.
Okay. I do want to answer Katie's question. So Katie, for the audience, right? Can you repeat your question? So I can answer your question. I haven't forgotten.
My question was, I think, um, so I understand that I'm not very knowledgeable or understanding the concept of like metadata. Okay.
Mhm.
In terms of this company, how would you like optimize them? What is your solution? Not like general to the issue, but for this specific company, what would you want them to do?
Okay, so that right there is part of the problem, because this is a societal issue that this company is exemplifying. So one, like, just going back to the point of the cops, right? The point of me bringing up the cops is not to say that it's a bad thing that there can be an intercession to a person who is suicidal. It's simply to point out that it's something that can be done with data, right? That you may not understand how they do it, but they can do it, right? That they have access to it. You don't have to tell them the data, give them the data so that they can
So
figure
your
out the
answer
data,
is
right?
that you don't have an answer, but you think we should have a social discussion about it and reach certain understandings that we
So
all agree on.
so well, that's part of it. And I said that before, right? That as a society, we have to figure out the answer, because there's not just like one answer to this, right? As a society, we might decide that, you know, it actually doesn't matter, that these data should be free to corporations, to governments, right? Like free data is better than restricted data or something like that. I don't know, right?
Okay.
I smell a slogan here. Yeah, we could come up with that. That could be our solution. I don't think it will be if we actually have this conversation. We can
I
decide
thought
how
that
this
was the
data,
discussion we were
part of
having. I'm sorry. Then I was
and part
completely out of it. I thought that was the discussion. Um,
no
I
yeah
apologize. I think it's
we
pretty obvious that society needs to think about this issue. I thought we were trying to say what we think
I,
should be the right solution.
I'm trying to, please, Olivia, don't interrupt me. You'll find out. Like, literally the next sentence. The next sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, right, while I think that this is bigger than one person, right, the next thing I was going to say was that even still, we can come up with solutions, right? From the start, the thing that we brought up at the very beginning, right? Talking about the consent of the data. That's where it starts, is that before we start gathering data, about consent of the data. And the specific case, right? You want to talk about the specific company? Okay. And the specific case, we start with the fact that there is, when you go to sign up, there's a 50 paragraph consent form, right? Where
Okay,
it
so if
talks
you
about,
want to talk about consent, that's a different
we cover-
conversation.
Oh my God, you still have not finished.
No, because it's really annoying.
Hold on. You asked me a question, and you wait
And you're
you
giving
wait,
me
and
a
you
50
get
paragraph
frustrated.
answer. Yeah.
Okay. All right. See, all right. A nuanced topic, right? I try to actually give an answer. This is what we've been trying to do the entire time, and they just ignore it. Right? Oh, okay. You're about to give me a solution. For this one particular company.
You
No,
know,
I'm sorry. No, I don't want it. And it's too
I'm
long. And it's
sorry.
too hard. It's
I'm
too
sorry.
hard for
I'll
me.
shut
I
up, and
can't.
I'm sure you'll give me the
Yes,
solution.
please,
I'm
please
dying to
do
hear
that
it.
so that I
Please.
can
I'm
actually
sorry.
answer the question. When I answer the question, right, and then you can respond, we can have a back and forth about that, right? Great,
I'm
right?
sure
If
we
you have
could.
anything, but let me finish it, right? Because you keep making these objections, and then literally the next sentence, I would have responded to the objection. No, you can raise your hand, but again, you're the one who keeps interrupting. Okay, I'll try it again. Let's see if I can make it. So part of it, right, about gathering the data is informing people, right, giving people proper ability to consent to giving that data or not. If you start, right, if they start with a 50 paragraph legal document, right, when a person is mentally distressed, right, possibly considered suicide, they're not going to fucking read that. They're not going to fucking read it, right? Another thing you could do, right, you could actually have that, like, give them a legal form. But then beyond that, it's like, okay, are you sure? Because these are the relevant points. And plain English, this is what we'll do with your data. Now, this is not a perfect solution because, again, if the person is in a mental crisis, they don't read that either, right? But at the very least, you give them a shot. They're not going to read a 50 paragraph form. That's not going to fucking happen. It's not. I'd be amazed if it ever happened in the history of the company, right? But like a bullet points. That's what their data can do, and we're going to do this. And Google Play Store, right? I don't have an Apple iPhone, so I can't tell for the App Store. I don't remember. But for the Google Play Store, when you go and buy an app, right? Like it tells you what that app will do in terms of its permissions, right? And it's very plain. This will access your camera, right? This will access your text and photos, your messages, right? It can tell you all those things. Right? Bullet point what's going to be accessed with your data, right? Oh, and then it might send their data to a third party, right? It can tell you that thing. We can do that, standardize that across the nation, across the board, right? That this has to be done in plain English. That's a start, okay? In terms of the data, right? In terms of the data itself, because you're like, oh, consent's a different thing. I don't know how it is, but sure. In terms of the data itself, right? You asked a specific question before as to what to do if they're using that data to optimize the system. First of all, like we do this in other places like the government in terms of data. I forget the term for it, but it's like the minimum data age, right? Like, or how long you can hold on to data, right? Like
Retention.
Retention. Thank you so much. Data retention, right? You can put rules on data retention. Do you need to amass the entire database, right? Do you have to use all of that to optimize your system? Maybe it might be the case, but maybe not, right? We could actually categorize different companies, right? And what their use cases might be, put them in that categorization, and then make smart decisions as to how each category should be tweaked, right? So maybe this mental health nonprofit could doesn't actually need it forever, right? You can have an expiration for maybe 100 days, right? Like extract what you need from this and then delete it. But maybe that doesn't make sense. But we can decide as a society what it actually does, right? Like there's a bunch of things. That's just one example, right? There's just a bunch of things that you can do, right? With these specific types of data sets that we can just decide, right? We can make laws, we can make regulations to actually do that. Does that answer your question?
No.
If not, I can try again, please.
God, no. I agree with you on everything. I will support whatever it is that you want to do with the data. The only thing that I care about is the consent issue. Apparently, they're not separable to you, except that we've been here for over an hour and a half. We haven't spoken a single word about consent.
What
but we
is
talk
your
about
concern
data
about
and
concern, Katie?
Okay.
Oh my God.
Just tell me. Just tell me. What is it? What do you want me to answer? I'll try it again.
You should let them finish.
I'm sorry. Did I say I didn't understand you?
What did I say? No. Oh. Sorry. No. I'm saying. No. Katie, you're saying that you want to talk about consent. Is that what you just said? Like I want to talk about consent.
I would love to talk about consent.
Okay, go ahead. Do it. What is the question you're going to ask?
I wasn't going to ask a question. I
Oh,
think
okay.
your opinion about people not being able to give consent in that situation is stupid. That's my opinion.
Why is it stupid? I'm sorry. Okay,
Yes.
great. Why is it stupid?
Why is it stupid?
Yes.
Because I think, first of all, not all these people are in. We understand that when people are distressed, that doesn't necessarily removes their capability of giving consent. Also, it's kind of silly. If we're talking like generally about giving consent online, then I agree that there needs to be a lot done about it. So that like you ticking a box that says yes, I've read this. Nobody reads it. It's bullshit. So I agree with you. That should be made more accessible, more easy to read, more easy to understand. And I think there are issues with consent in that case too. But to just segregate people who are in a mentally like negative space and are approaching a hotline, it's like the only people that suddenly will remove consent from them is a bit silly. I think generally
Yeah, I
people
agree.
online can't really give consent to that kind of things. It's stupid. So
Yeah.
I agree that we need to change that as a whole. I don't agree that the only issue is with this specific company that the people approaching it can't give consent. I think that's silly.
The only issue. The only issue. The only issue.
No, I thought we're not talking about data. I thought
No,
we were
no, no,
talking about
no,
consent.
but you just said it's the only issue. Oh my God. So there are many issues. I'm bringing up
Huge.
one example for us to work with, right? And I never said that these individuals literally cannot give consent, right? I never said that. Never came on my mouth. Look at the bod. You'll never find it, right? I said, right, that it's difficult for informed consent. It's difficult for a person who is in distress, right? Like being in distress does not make
So
you.
is it about the fact
Does
that I
not
said consent
increase.
and not informed consent? Is that the problem?
No, it's not the problem. The problem is you didn't listen to anything I fucking said. That's the problem, right?
I'm sorry.
So
I'm
okay.
you're too galaxy brain for me right now. I'm not catching any
Apparently,
of it.
I've been trying. I've been
Oh my
trying, right?
fucking
So
God.
you're saying one problem. It's just the only thing that we've been able to talk about. That doesn't mean that there's not other issues with this.
There are millions of problems with this company and with big data in general. You said
I don't
we'll
think
talk
there's
about
anything-
consent.
any problem.
I don't
I'm trying.
understand.
I'm trying to.
What are you talking about?
I'm literally trying to. I'm literally trying to with you. Like
You're literally not.
hold on,
Prime,
hold on.
question,
You brought up.
question.
Hold on, wait, shut up.
Yeah.
I'm trying
to understand.
Shut up. So, no, you just said, am I incorrect? Spell out for me. You just said, right, that these individual people, like I was saying that these individual people cannot consent, right? That I'm somehow segregating them. Use the word segregate, correct? I'm segregating them and saying that the people who are mentally stressed cannot consent. Is that not what came out of your mouth?
Maybe it is. Do you want me to retract it?
No, I want you to defend it. I want you to. You said it, so please defend it. If that's what you're
Okay.
thinking, then please, I
So-
want to understand. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I said a wrong thing. I think that consent generally and how we give informed consent online is problematic, unrelated to the specific individuals approaching this specific company. I think when we all take that line about everything else, that's still not very productive towards like informed consent. So I don't think we can give informed consent when we like say Facebook can use our data or when we do the tick on Amazon or whatever. So I think that's a general point. I don't think it's specific to this company. So do we agree on that?
I see what you're trying to say. I don't
Yes.
agree on your point because I think you can give informed consent. I think it's a possibility that you actually can. Why can't you
Okay.
think in terms of Facebook? Why don't you think we cannot do that specifically for just a general individual who's of a sound mind?
Okay. So when I said that you had a specific issue with these people giving consent and you were mad at me about saying that, is that now the point you're making?
I'm examining your point, what you just said. We
Okay.
can get back to that later, but I'm examining what you just said.
So when you gave your whole like long manifesto, you were talking about how these things should be written out in simple English, not 50 paragraphs, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Facebook does it, Amazon does it, every single website that we use that asks us to tick a box does it. So
Not
do
all
you
of
read
them.
those things?
No. Oh, hold on. No. Okay, those are two separate things. So there
Oh.
are some sites that do this, right? Many sites
Mhm.
do not do this. So I do not accept that blanket statement that all sites ask you or present you with simplified language, not legal language, but simplified language as to how their data is being used. Sites are getting better with this, right? But it's on an ad hoc basis, right? Like they have decided that they're going to go out of their way to do that, right? And there isn't necessarily a legal consequence if they don't do that, right? That's something we can add.
Yeah, this is something that I brought up from the beginning.
I feel like you
contract
guys.
law, like
Yeah,
with a Haitian contracts like really sucks. I think it's because of the state, but this is not something we're gonna get into here. But
I
but
I I think like honestly, like it feels like you guys agree on that point, and it's just like one person, like I would be Prime in this case, clarifying what they think is informed consent. Then I think Katie, you're like, yeah, like working off that understanding, and it seems like an argument where it's like that part you guys agree with, and then are you just trying to talk about specifically this hotline? Like
Me? I've been trying
yes.
to do that the entire panel. Apparently,
Well,
that was a
then with the
mistake.
hotline, I'd be like, because it is possible to like commit suicide and be of like the right state of mind, or at least legally, I think it can be possible. Then I would agree with you that there's people that can call the hotline and be of right sound or like sound mind, or they could be rationally thinking, etc. And that would allow them to be able to like give consent. I think that my problem, which I stated earlier, but it was a long time ago, is that the speed at which this is done is like the likelihood is that if I am trying to get a hold of someone really quickly, and the company's based off of optimizing how fast someone reaches out to you, and that's what they're even using for their for-profit company. I'm going to quickly sign into anything so that I can speak to a human person, because that's why I'm calling the hotline, is to speak to a human person. And so if I'm given like check boxes or anything to read, I have a higher likelihood of not doing that, because I'm in a position where like I have some level of fear. I even rationally have some level of like I need to speak to someone right now. So even if I'm in a state of mind, I'm not in the position to like look at long paragraphs or anything to like give any real consent. And then I would that's the standard that I would hold about this.
Yeah. So
Okay,
how would
well,
you have them present the things you want them to present then? At first, they're taking your data, right? And that they're going to be using it for whatever purposes you're using it for. Because just the writing out those statements in full, right, is
Mhm.
going to be a couple paragraphs just on its own, right? So they
True.
text this thing, they get a couple paragraphs back. You're telling me they're not going to read any of this shit, right? Because they're mostly just interested in getting to the person, right? So how would you have them present this at all?
Bullet points. You can do this bullet points. Like they already do this. My point was previously. Like in terms of how your data can be used, companies can already do this. You just present it in
Wait, but
bullet
this
points.
company does that.
Okay, never mind.
Hold on.
Well,
Yeah.
I
so
think
when he
the
texts
main thing
this
is-
company, hold on. When he texts his company, right? So the first thing you get is by texting further with us, you agree to our terms, and there's a link to the terms, right? You click on that. Right at the top, it's the information we collect, how we use that info, how we keep that info safe, yada yada. You can just tap on any of those things, and it tells you right away, first thing on the top, that they collect personally identified data that can be used to uniquely identify you, right? So like, they already are doing this. So if the issue is that people are agreeing to this stuff without reading it because they're like in a crisis, right? So
Yes.
how do we? Yeah. So how do they present this in a way that's like understandable when you text this thing? Because if they send back a couple paragraphs, right? You tell me that people aren't going to read these paragraphs.
Yeah, so I that's essentially what my problem is, DB, is that like I have those same questions that you're posing. I'm just on the opposite side of this issue. So like I say, all right, how are they going to do these things? And then I think that from my perspective, like the most ethical way to handle this, which still seems kind of unethical, is that like you would take this information and then you wouldn't give it to like a for-profit company at all, and you would take this consent so that you can speak to this person because it's for the purpose of helping them out. It's for the purpose of like helping them in a crisis situation. And then once you get that information, you wouldn't give it to like a for-profit linked company.
Why?
Because I just what you described is like I don't see that as like true consent.
Okay, but like why? So the way that you're saying that they shouldn't give it to a for-profit company, what if they give it to another company that's also a nonprofit?
I don't know. I'd have to see what that non-profit company does. If that's another
Okay.
crisis hotline, it would be pretty good, wouldn't it?
So the issue is just it seems to be specifically that someone's making money possibly with the data, and you feel like it's
Um,
immoral somehow.
it's not just that they're making money. Like I feels like you're making this into like a socialist thing or something. Like it's more so of
No,
like
you
it's
you
what
you
that
use the word
company is
for
using it
profit.
for. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so they could share
But
with
it's
this
I
with
said
some
it's there
for-profit
for
companies.
it's
And
there.
so with some for-profit companies, but it'd be like
No, it's
specific.
it's specifically the one that they're using is tied to like customer service. Like, what does that have to do with like a suicide hotline? What is that helping? How is that helping individuals that are in like a position, a crisis position?
Yeah, Doobie,
specifically tied
when
to
I
this?
read the article, I thought that they were using the for-profit company to finance the line. And I agreed to the panel thinking that I'm going to have to defend them using the for-profit company to finance the line. But they don't need that money. They have the mother company regardless. So it's literally just to generate money out
Yeah,
of the
I
backs of
understand.
these people.
Okay, out of the backs, actually, this framing as if like they're taking something from these people and they're exploiting them somehow, right? For this data, right? Like you said earlier, Kitty, they've saved many of these people's lives.
They're not
Right? They're
I
providing.
don't think they're exploiting those people, but I don't think
Okay,
it's
well then
it doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth that
why?
they're doing that.
So if the service they're offering is having, you text this thing, and within like a 30 seconds, someone's talking to you, they're going to help you through whatever crisis you're going through, right?
Yeah.
And the cost is that they're going to use some of your data to fund some other to help some other thing that they're doing.
Well,
right?
first of all, they're
Is that
not
like
selling it as that's the cost, right? That's a thing that you'll have to figure out from the consent the what you were reading that you ended up giving consent to.
Yeah, it's not in their
It's
mission
supposed to
statement.
be a free service. If you're going to say it's a paid for service, you don't have to actually pay us money, but you pay us with your data, then that's a different marketing scheme. But they can't do that because people won't go for it. So to pretend
Wait.
like this is about like, oh, that's just the cost of us helping you. The
wait, hold
company
on, but
claims to
these people
care
can go
about
back.
lives.
They do care about lives, right? It's like I don't
Yeah,
know
the
why.
volunteers.
I don't
The
understand.
volunteers very much do.
I don't understand why there's like this implication that if they dare make money from this somehow, right? They no longer
They don't
care about
have
saving
to
people's
make
lives.
money.
It's not
from
about
this.
It's
yeah.
not about whether or not they have to. It's whether or not they are, right? So if they want to make money from this somehow, right? You
It's
guys are
the way in
speaking
which
as
they're
if it's
making money from
somehow
it.
immoral for them to do this,
It's the way
right?
in which they're
And
making
hold
money
on,
from it.
and I don't understand like what's the issue with let's say that like it might be on the person who texted in, right? So after
Yeah.
they get through this crisis, they can actually go back and read the terms and conditions, and within there, they'll find a way to email this company and ask them to delete all of their data, right? And the company will delete all their data, right? So like it's on the person, right? On the individual that's contacting them.
I would be more okay with that. Yeah, that is more ethical.
It's already in
more
there.
ethical. It is more ethical.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's already in there
but
that
it's
if
not
you've texted this thing, you
yeah.
can go back and you can
Why
email
don't they
them and
just
say,
put
hey,
that on the
delete all my
front
data.
page? Why don't they say that? Like what? Like why wouldn't they tell you that immediately? Why do you have to look for that?
The first thing you get is a link to their terms of service or whatever.
And how long
And
is that
and they're
terms of
bullet
service?
they're like not bullet points. They're like lines, right? So like you tap on the thing. And then if you wanted to, it says accessing / managing your data. You tap on that, right? It'll take you to that section, and right away it tells you that you can email them. It gives you an email address, and you can ask them to delete your data. It's very simple, right? So once they help you through this crisis, you can go back and make sure they delete your data.
Yeah, do they send you like an email after, like a message after?
They're
when,
not
when
taking
they ask
your
you that?
email address.
I'm saying like when they if they message you afterwards to see how things are going, if they do something like that, would they hit you up, send you a message telling you could delete your data, or is this given specifically in the time frame that you said? What is it?
It's right up
30
front.
seconds. 30 seconds before someone meets you. So if you're waiting 30 seconds to have someone come to you, and then this disclaimer pops up on your phone, you're gonna say that someone's gonna sit there and read through all of that in a moment of crisis.
Yeah,
When they're
maybe
just
not right then and
waiting
there, but maybe they could go back later after they've been helped through the moment of crisis.
and maybe they can go back later. Maybe. Yeah.
It's on them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on
No,
them.
And
I
if they
think
don't,
I
then
think
hey,
Doobie
they
actually
deserve it.
Doobie just said something I kind of agree with. I was gonna actually want to say. I think one approach to handling this in terms of like the consenting might be to do just like a flip, right? If you present this kind of thing where they are presented when they're the person, the machine, whatever that they're texting says like, okay, so we're gonna use this data. Like, do you consent? Yes or no? And then they can link the whole like text.
Yeah,
So,
I believe that should be and I don't want to speak for you, but it seems like Katie, you're also agreeing that if it's plastered there and telling you can do so, you'd be more okay with it, but they're not doing so. Is that what you were saying?
More okay with what? With them
Like
like
if
having
they're
the data?
telling you, right, yes, like if they're saying that you can delete the data and they're telling you that they're doing this right out there, like right as you're opening this
I
app, that you'd
think
be
they can do a lot more stuff to make it even more clear for people that they have the right to come back later and ask for the data to be deleted. I think they have more ways of making it clear that they are, in fact, like uh, processing data, and then that data goes through things. And I think all of that should be done. I don't think people who approach this hotline can't consent to it. I think that's my only argument. Like, that's not an issue.
Yeah, and I think this is like Kato was saying earlier. This is like
we never said that they absolutely cannot consent. But the point is, I'm trying
Yes,
to I want
informed
to
consent.
put out a olive branch. Okay, would you agree? Would you agree with something, right? That when they say, because Doopy is saying that they give the option of deleting the data, which is amazing, right? They do that. That's great. However, other companies have done this in the past, right? Like, oh yeah, we're going to delete your data. No problem. Click this button or go through this process, and your data is gone. But your data is not gone. One of the biggest, most infamous examples of this was Ashley Madison. This happened a few years back. I know some of you guys must remember this, right? Ashley Madison was a famous social media dating website, right?
cheating.
For cheating, yes, for like people within marriages who were having affairs, right? And for cheating, they got hacked, right, at some point in time. And it turns out when they said they're gonna get rid of your data, they fucking lied, right? But that's like one small website. You're like, okay, let's just, it's one small, well, not one small, it was actually pretty big. But it's just like a random corporation, right? But then Google, yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, I saw, right? Like there's a lawsuit against Google talking about data that it says it's not collecting, right? So there's a location history option. If you have an Android phone, right, it can you have the option of turning off location history, so it's not tracking you. There are 3 attorneys generals, right, 3 state attorney generals here in the United States who are suing Google because they didn't actually do that, because we're still collecting that data according to the lawsuit. It has to be proven in court. But this is the thing that happens. So I think we get something maybe we could agree on, is that we should have some sort of rule that maybe there should be some sort of audit for these companies, right? If you're collecting a certain amount of data, if you're a company maybe of a certain size, right, and you're collecting data, that we should have some sort of a third-party auditing system, right? Just like we have for medical data here in this country, right? We have a third-party doing that for like HIPAA verifications. I used to work for a company that did that. A third party would have to certify you to say that you are up to code. So maybe
But I
something like
think
that
they
for big
might-
data.
they
Hold
might-
on. I just want to get Katie. Katie, would something you might agree to?
I told you, I'll agree with whatever you want to regulate this.
Yeah,
I'm on board with everything.
it-
I would never object to regulation. If this is about what I said before, I don't think Americans are very into regulation. So I don't think it's possible. But I wouldn't object to
True, they're
regulation. I'm hardcore on regulation. If I had it my way, you bet your ass there will be a lot of, I would not let them even like sell that data in the first place. But I don't decide the rules, and Americans are incredibly incompetent at regulating anything. So seems
I
pointless to argue
I
for that.
would say that because this is like it's a crisis hotline. I imagine they probably already just have like some. I know on their board they have a specific board specifically for like medical professionals and stuff that are on it. and some of those people have their own hotlines or like have their own like nonprofits, and it's like I imagine like they would have to speak to some government agency or have some sort of like auditing process that already happens specifically because they're dealing with like something like
Well, I thought
suicides, right?
what they discussed in the article was that nonprofits actually don't fall into this category that allows like a governmental agency to like properly evaluate that company. And that was like the big part of the article, that
It would,
this company is going unregulated
but
because of
that's
it.
like I think that's the idea of like they wouldn't have to as a nonprofit, but it would still fall into that purview, right? Because if you are like this nonprofit and you're dealing with people who are calling a crisis hotline, you would at least need to have some form of legal team, and you would want to have this level of like connection with the government because they're going to be people calling you, assuming, let's say somebody they fail and somebody does die, and then you see that they call this crisis hotline. You're going to have some form of like legal protection that you want for yourself, which is why they want to establish like some level of like you gave consent. And I imagine that they would work like with the government, and they would give like they would allow an auditing process so that their like hands are like hands are free of any debts that possibly could occur, you know.
I'd hope so.
Okay.
Other than that,
s-
I believe Doobie, Bryce, I'm not sure Prime if you agree. I think Katie would agree. I don't know if you would agree,
You can
Lucas.
just call me Katie Wiggle. It's okay.
Katie. So Katie, Lucas, would you guys all agree? I think Prime, Bryce, I, and Doobie in this instance, hopefully we would all agree if they just continued what they did, but they made it more clear that you can delete your data right when you go up, right when you enter like this app or what have you, and you can sign off on that, and they tell you how you do that, and you can do it on your own end, and everything's exactly how it is, and we would agree on that. That's my compromise. I don't like the idea of the for profit. I agree that like that I don't like what they're using that for. If it was a for profit that was doing something that was like helping people in a position of crisis or what have you, I'd be more for it. But I'd be willing to compromise Doobie on that if they because I mean they're allowing you the ability to delete data. I imagine all of you guys agree with Prime in saying that, well, if this company was like found out to not have been deleting data, that you would want like the government to come after them. Is there any
Um,
disagreement or
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'd be fine with that, but I think it's pretty clear already, and I don't really. I think that even so, if somebody's like very they're suicidal or they're very depressed, and they text this thing and it tells them, "Hey, we're gonna take your data and sell it." That might just turn them off to having the conversation at all, right? It might lead to pushing people away, and maybe some of those people might hurt
but
themselves.
that's competition. Like there's other hotlines you can call, right?
But wait,
What?
so would you have a problem? Let's say that two different non for profits do
Yeah.
this, right? One starts disclosing this very clearly, right?
Yes.
And then another one doesn't do it.
Yes.
Would you have a problem with the? Would you? How would you feel if the one that's disclosing this clearly goes out of business because they just stop receiving money or something? I don't know.
I think the problem with
I'm
the
not saying that would be the case. I'm just asking.
I think in that instance, like I would ask for something that I think that you would disagree with. I don't know if Bryce would disagree with. I'm assuming probably already happens is that they should be subsidized. They should,
so-
if they're doing some greater good for society, they should be subsidized. Other than that, like it's the idea that like it's about speed, right? It's more likely that like the one that isn't disclosing this, that is like would that is get generating some sort of data that's utilizing to get faster responses. They're gonna have better. They're gonna have more people. There's gonna be more people calling the line that's getting them faster responses, even if they're consenting to something that could harm them. And for me, I'm like that is true. That's obviously true. So if there's another, let's say there's another nonprofit and it takes you like 10 minutes to get a hold of someone, and there's one that it takes you 30 seconds, everyone in your family and everyone around is going to be like, don't use that one. It's garbage. If you're in a point in a crisis, call the one that takes 30 seconds, and that's also the one that's taking your data. And I have a problem with that.
So okay, we've gone way over time, and I want to respect everyone's schedules. So we'll have to end it here. However, to my audience, we will continue on with Open Walk On panel right after this. So stick around, all right? The stream does not end. The stream never ends. So stick around. We'll have more content for you. I'm going to give an outro to these amazing people, but we will continue on. Before we do that, quickly, hit that follow button. If you haven't done so yet, if you liked all of this, if you if you sat through all of this, then hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live. We do it 6 nights a week. Don't try to forget about this place, right? You've experienced something, right? You've experienced something magical. And that's a PrimeCayes debate. And if you want more of that, well, then hit that follow button. Make sure notifications are on. Also, exclamation point social in chat or social media. We got if my fucking keyboard will work. Oh boy. We have Twitter where we tweet things out. All right, so check that out. We have Discord, Heart and Soul of the Community. We'll be having an open panel on there, right? But we also have great offline and online conversations. Please come on in. You're going to have a good time. We'd love to have you, right? And also, finally, YouTube. If you missed any of this, including, right, like what, where did hashtag Doobie has no dick come from, right? If you don't know what that means, well, then you've missed out, right? That'll be on the YouTube. Trust me, we're going to put that on. Everyone, please check out the YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, and consider becoming a YouTube member by hitting that join button. It'll be a great way of supporting this community by helping us out that way. All right, I'm going to give these people an outro, but again, the content continues afterwards. We'll start with Doobie, Dark Lord and Savior. Doobie, all right? Once again, going all out for corporations. Shouldn't have expected otherwise. Doobie, thanks so much.
I do have a dick. Prem is lying. The entire thing is a lie. This is anti-frog fucking speciesism or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Don't listen to these people, okay? If you want to see my dick, you'll find me at the politics server on Discord, discord.gg/politics. Yeah, hit me up, and I promise you, it's beautiful. You'd love to. You can ask Robin here. I showed him earlier. He loved it. You should see our DMs. And so I do have a dick. Fuck you guys.
You guys are great. Hey, Robin, we'll go to you, right? So you've experienced magic yourself, right? You've experienced Doobie's dick. Robin, imaginary. Robin, thank you for coming on, Lucas. Thank you for being here. Again, we don't have you here all that often, but you were a lot of fun, right? A lot of good pushback. It was just good interacting with you. So.
Yeah. Once again, my name is Lucas. I go online by Robin the State. You can find me on Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram by that. It was a good conversation. Sorry for being a little late. Glad to be here. I do want to say that one thing that I wanted to talk about, but I guess we didn't get a chance to talk about, it was the problem that I see that arises with contract law and adhesion contracts. There's a great lecture that I don't know if people want to watch it. Recommend is from the economist David Friedman, and there's a lot of people that are familiar with the term market failures. There's also he come up with a term that is political market failures, and he explains on the lecture why some of the problems that arise within the market that you would expect to not get the best results also arise within democratic institutions. So if somebody wants to check that out, I'll recommend you guys to watch it. But yeah, once again, Robin the State. Thanks for having me on Prime, and subscribe to PrimeCayes and Doobie has no dick.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, both true things. All right, moving forward, we have Briss. Briss, it feels surprising. Actually, I thought you'd be on the other side of this when I called on you. But that's great. It's good to not be able to expect where someone might fall on these things. Actually, I was kind of wrong on a few things here in terms of where the battle lines were drawn. But Briss, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to clarify, like typically I do favor like the market and private companies doing things, but I think healthcare and something like this is one of those areas where it's not the case. And I think it's you should my word of caution is to watch somebody like David Friedman with a grain of salt, and you should try to read actual contemporary economic experts, not somebody that doesn't believe in science or scientific method. So try to check out like the official economics. Try to check out the official economics server. It's a really good resource on Discord. You can find me at Bryce Bedict on Twitch. I don't really have anything else. But yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. Nice to meet Lucas, and had a lot of fun engaging with him.
All right. Next, we'll go to Katie. Katie. This is the most acrimonious we have ever been.
My outro is, Robin, I'm sorry we didn't get to fight about your opinions. I have a lot to say about them. I was busy like getting Prime off my neck, but you know how it is. He gets excited about me in that way.
Listen, I'm just
So
glad you
I
kept your
hope
band.
I hope that we'll get to it eventually, you know? So
Maybe we will.
All right. I smell 101 debate. We can set that up. But but still, Katie, I do appreciate you coming through. Right. I didn't. I was a little mistaken as to how this would go. But no matter what, whether I disagree with you or agree with you, I
mean,
appreciate.
Prime, I would have loved discussing the actual issue. I really would have.
I think we disagreed on lots of things, including what you think is the actual issue, and what you think I think the actual issue is. But we're gonna have to leave it on. We're gonna have to leave it on. But Katie, thank you seriously for taking time out of your day and spending with the audience. Much appreciated. Okay. And after something so acrimonious, right? Also everyone go visit Katie's channel. It's
No.
No, she wants people to go to her Twitch and to sound so Katie on Katie. Like one day we'll pressure her to start streaming because we want to do it. Okay. Next, after an acrimonious debate, like the only way to settle down, right, is to go to Wiggle last and experience his magic. So Wiggle, thank you for coming through. Thank you for being a great mod in my community. Thank you for being a great debater. It's always fun watching you work. So Doobie, or no, fuck Wiggle. Sorry. I was thinking fraud dicks. Wiggle. Wiggle.
You mean lack of?
Lack of. Wiggle.
Doobie,
Please
can I have a picture too?
take us out, please.
Yeah, I mean, like as usual, it was very. It's always entertaining when you see like this little addition to the panel, and it says like Doobie is there. Like you're like, oh, you know, this guy's gonna be silent for 50 minutes and come with the spirit bomb or something. And it was interesting as always. As always, I haven't been on a panel with Katie before, but I've spoken to you about something else.
Yeah, we had the abortion thing.
That's a weird thing to
What
say.
abortion?
That's a weird thing to say. I hope you clarify. I'll give you some time to clarify.
My clarification is that me and Wiggle, we have misunderstandings, but with enough good faith, we come through and we end up agreeing. So there you go. Also, he asked me to get an abortion.
That didn't clarify.
Yes,
Okay.
there was.
Okay.
I'll be like
guess.
me meeting Katie on another panel and be like, oh yeah, remember we had that talk about me helping you reach Nirvana?
Ugh. And I mean, I've also talked to I've talked to you, Lucas, before. It was a completely different subject. And then Bryce, I think I was here when he first joined the channel. I was one of the people speaking to. It was really funny, man, because you presented yourself as like a more right-leaning Canadian liberal.
Well-
And in this conversation, you were like saying a lot of the stuff that like I would say American sock dems that would say.
Yeah, so that's the beauty of it, right? Is that in Canada, like pretty much in the rest of the world, we kind of go back to the more like Edmund Burke kind of like conservatism, right? Like we want the process and like the government structure to lead to reform, and we're just against revolution, right? Like that's the kind of conservative I am, and like paternalism, right? Like we want to protect people from themselves in some respect, and obviously like I still do like really advocate for like as minimal of government and regulations as possible, but we still do need like basically a sort of a medium-sized government.
See-
I hope we can talk about that another day. That sounds
Sure.
like something I want to hear you on. I don't know.
See, like
Sure.
you give me a level of hope simply because like I really don't like liberalism. And so like hearing what you say and being like, that's somewhat agreeable gives me a feeling like that there's still an expiration date that that's gonna be like my lifetime. Like I can still have a kid or another kid or something, and I can still experience something before there's a point where it's like what you're saying doesn't make sense.
White belt.
Outside of that, it was like I find it remarkable, Lucas. Like even though like I really don't agree with your points or anything. Obviously, you come into the panels, I imagine already feeling like you're going to be attacked for what you believe. Um, and then the way in which you have like the most disagreeable stance for like contempt, like for like the status quo, and yet somehow Katie was the one that was the most attacked on the panel. Who was
That's
just like
you know,
saying
I'm the good
something
end
that
cap,
was
like
like
she said.
it was like what Katie was saying is like 1 degree removed from like Bryce or Doobie or I or Prime, and you are like in another category. Yet I mean it makes me think like maybe there's a smidge of truth in what like femcels say, because like I mean I come into the panel, I'm like, damn, all I did was witness misogyny the whole time. Sometimes it was funny, I'm not gonna lie, but damn, damn, like Prime, you did go all you went off on like a Dragon Ball Z-esque like dialogue tree for like
Don't make him feel bad. He was
oh
being
my,
good. Okay? He attacked her because of her ideas. Come on.
oh my god. Anyway, it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed myself today. Normally, I don't enjoy these panels for more than just debating or hearing what people think. But this time, it felt more like holistic. It felt like I enjoyed all parts of it, and there was nobody on the panel that like I just didn't really like to engage with. You know, it was entertaining all around.
Thank you so
Good.
much, and thank you to all of you. Seriously, this is a lot, so much appreciated. And Wiggle, I think what did I say? Wiggle actually did help us come down from that. All right, thank you so much. All right, we will continue on.
Wiggle.
Stop.
I don't give informed consent.
Oh boy. So we will continue on with our open walk on panel and no more of that shit. So anyone here can join us. If not, that's okay. Thanks for spending your time, your effort, your knowledge, and your passion, and your non-existent frog dicks with us. I know my audience appreciate it just as much as I did. Have a good one. Bye.